Order. It's our final regular meeting of the Osborne School District Governing Board for 2024. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, led by some of our fine students from Osborne Middle School. Do you guys want to come on up? Whoever would like to come up and lead us with the Pledge of Allegiance. Yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Next, we will do our land acknowledgement statement from the Osborne School District Governing Board. Arizona is home to 22 tribal nations. The Osborne School District is situated on the homelands of the Acamel, O'odham, and Peepash people. Osborne School District recognizes the original inhabitants of these lands and recognizes they still reside throughout the city of Phoenix. We recognize their wisdom, impact, and generosity towards us. Osborne School District is surrounded by the original Salt River canals that were constructed by the ancestral Sonoran Desert people, the Hohokam. These canals created a livelihood for the people and are still in use today. We acknowledge the modern indigenous people that inhabit this area, as well as their Sonoran Desert ancestors, the Hohokam. Okay, next we have our wonderful OMS students. Ms. Hayes, do you want to come on up? Yeah.
Good evening, members of the Governing Board, President Hermes, Dr. Robert. We are so excited to be able to present to you about our United Sound program. United Sound is a nationwide club, and its mission is to remove barriers and foster social change through music. It's a collaborative program that brings together students of all abilities to learn and create music in a supportive and inclusive setting. United Sound has been at Osborne Middle School for the past 3 years, and how it works is that we have 3 peer mentors from Miss George's band class who pair with 1 new musician from Mr. Parker's class. They get together on a weekly basis, work through specialized curriculum to learn to play an instrument. This learning culminates in a performance with the entire band. Through this program, our students develop not only musical skills, but also lifelong connections and a deeper appreciation for diversity and teamwork. So, Mr. Stacy, if you could get us some pictures. So we have some pictures coming up of our students in action, along with our new musicians, and so we also have some clips coming up. Our new musicians weren't able to make it this evening, so we have some clips of them talking about their experience, and then we'll get to hear from our mentor teachers here about their experience, and it'll culminate with the performance at our winter concert a couple weeks ago. We'll watch the video of that song, so
Cool.
That's what we're hoping for here in a minute. Thank you, Mr. Stacy. So this next picture is of the whole entire group with our 3 new musicians and all of our mentor teachers. The next clip is Jaylene working with her mentors Olivia and Kendra on the bells. The next clip will be our new musician Mario working with mentors Oliver and Emmanuel on the trombone. And finally, we'll have Nico working with mentors Aiden, Joao on the drum pad. So unfortunately, like I said, none of our new musicians were able to make it this evening, but we do have some clips to share that they spoke about today in class. So are those links now? There we go.
My name is Mario, and the thing that I love about band is like the instruments, and I play the trombone. It's like the best part is like most likely learning new notes.
And we'll have Nico and then Jaylene.
Big chunks. Big chunk.
Why did you join band, Nico?
Giant band.
And what's the best part about going to band? Is
It's
it
a long time.
is it playing with your friends or learning new songs?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing.
And then finally, Jaylene.
My name is Julie, and what I play is bells. And why did I join band? Because it sounded really fun, and the thing that I enjoyed is the band concert.
A little hard to hear, but they had some really positive experiences to share about these folks right next door to me. So I do want to shout out two teachers that make this instrumental in making this program a success. Miss Georges has done so much to build our OMS band program, music program, and district-wide. She's not able to make it this evening. She has a band concert at Clarendon. But Mr. Parker, who is her teammate in this, he is here tonight. He has served in the district for a number of years, and he is in his first year at OMS. He serves in our self-contained special education classroom, and he has been just critical in partnering with Ms. Georges to make sure his students have the opportunity that they deserve. So I'd like to invite Mr. Parker to the podium.
Hi, everybody. Some of you guys know me, some of you don't. That's okay. But I'm here to talk about the opportunity for my students. So students who are in self-contained classrooms often do not get exposed and do not have that time out with their peers to do so many of the wonderful things that make us humans humans. So by being able to partner with Julia, again, we were able to lean into the arts and the humanities and remind our children about what a wonderful thing it is to be a human being. I have now been in the district, this I think is year 13 and a half or 14, it's somewhere around there. But I've been working with Julia since I started in the district, even before there was a United Sound program. Julia was teaching some of my students in emotional disabilities classroom drum circles and helping them to build regulation skills through music. So this has just been a really positive opportunity for all my kids to get to make friends outside of the room, to get to really experience what life can be like. So thank you.
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. This next clip, I hope that we can hear it, but it's Miss Georges introducing our new musicians at their band concert here a couple weeks ago at our winter concert. So, Mr. Stacy, if we could play that clip.
To the stage, Nico, Jaylene, and Mario. United Sound is a nationwide club that allows students with disabilities to work with students without disabilities in learning how to play an instrument and play in an ensemble. We work on Thursdays during our lunchtime, and it is just awesome to walk into the band room during that time. Our mentor teachers had like a couple of days of training, and then really pretty recently, like in the last 4 or 5 weeks, if you come in, it is totally student-led. They're getting instruments out, they're having conversations, they're learning from each other, and Mr. Parker and I are doing very little hands-on things, which is just really, really cool to see students working with each other like this. So, without further ado, we will be playing Starfire March.
So we are fortunate enough to have 3 of our mentor teachers here this evening, and I know that's what we're all waiting for, is to hear from them. So I'll have them come up, they'll introduce themselves, talk with you a little bit about their experience, and I just really want to shout them out. I'm really proud of them for all that they've done to support our students and to grow our music at OMS. So big shout out to you guys.
I apologize if my voice is a little bit off today. Been not feeling great. But before meeting my new musician friend, I felt confident that we would get along. I have taught Nico before in 7th grade, and I thought that it would be just super cool to get another year with him. Every Thursday at our 4th hour, we meet and teach each of our partners in groups of 3 to 4 people. My favorite memory with United Sound has to be our first concert because it was super cool hearing how we learned and grew throughout the whole experience. And although at the time when I was first teaching Nico, he played a brass instrument and I do not play a brass instrument, I thought it was super cool that I helped teach him something I didn't know and I learned along with him. And it's just a really unique and interesting experience, which is why I love it so much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Olivia. I teach Jaylene for United Sound. The first time I met her, I kind of was feeling nervous because I normally feel nervous when I meet new people, but I'm not the best at teaching people myself, so that's why I felt really nervous. But as I got to know her, I started to warm up towards her, and I started to get to know who she is as a person. And the 3 words I could use to describe her was sweet, kind, and very funny. She is shy, and that's okay because I'm a shy person too at some point. And yeah, but we do meet during 4th hour, and when they come in, we help them get set up for working. And yeah, that's all I have.
Thank you, Olivia. Great job.
We have Oliver here who doesn't want to speak, but I do have to shout him out a bit, and actually all of our mentor teachers here. I've watched them practice a couple of times, and it's so cool because, like Miss Georgia said in that last clip, it is self-directed. They are there, they're doing their thing. They're all, it's almost like a little team working together, and so y'all did an incredible job of teaching. I know, Olivia, like you said, it's hard to teach something, and how you said, Aiden, how it's hard to teach something you don't know, but that's the hardest thing to do is teach, and so good job to do that to your fellow peers. So we had one other student that wasn't able to make it today. He had a speech prepared, so if he gets here in the next 30 seconds, we'll have him jump up here. But otherwise, I would like to end with the song that the band played at the winter concert called Starfire March.
questions. Just fantastic job, and I know it's hard. We don't feel like we're very intimidating folks, but sometimes it can be intimidating. So really appreciate you guys coming up here and everything that you're doing for your fellow students is just remarkable. Any questions from the board?
I'm going to echo the sentiments from President Hermes. Thank you for all you're doing on your campus and how you're supporting your community and how you're supporting your fellow students. My question is, how does the choice of what instrument the new students, the new musicians are going to play, how does that work? Do they pick or do you pick?
So normally we'll like show them, we'll like show out the instruments we play and other instruments, and they usually just pick for themselves which one they want to play.
So what instruments do each of you play?
I do flute.
I do bass clarinet.
Wow, very impressive.
Very great. Any other questions?
No questions, but also, thank you so much for just being willing to build that community within your school. I think it's really awesome. And hopefully, if you grow up and decide to be a music teacher, you can come to Osborne.
That's right. Yes.
Please join me, if you would, in giving these guys another round of applause.
Job.
Miss Hayes, I think there may be, Miss Greenberg, I think has a question for the
Oh,
miss.
you're okay.
No, it's okay.
No, this is awesome. I'm so excited that we have this program. If you were to give advice to high schoolers that wanted to start a program like this at their school, what would you say?
I would say just like be prepared to have people that want to teach and like know how to teach a little bit. Even if they don't, just help support them.
And then my other question, so I know you guys are the teachers in this program, but I think, as partners, you guys are learning from each other. So what are some of the things that you feel like you've learned from your partner?
You want me to speak into the mic, Brendan? Yeah.
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yeah. So I know you guys are the teachers in the program, but you guys learn from each other too. So what's something that you've learned from your partner in the program?
I learned that especially when teaching these kinds of students, it's really useful to support them as much as you can. But not support them like too much, or else it doesn't help them learn.
Yeah.
I agree with what he said, but I also learned from these two how to do that. Because at first it was kind of hard because I've never done this before, and Aiden has a year of experience, so I definitely learned a lot from him.
I did start to learn patience because I'm not a very patient person, but as I was learning, I started to learn how to have patience with people. So
Yeah. Thank you guys for sharing. I'm really excited about this.
Thank you so much. Yes. Go ahead.
Good evening. We are so excited to also recognize a few of our OMS teachers who have been nominated for the Spread the Love Award. So I'd like to first welcome Miss Dash up here. Come on up. So Miss Dash here was nominated for Joy, and she is in her first year here with OMS, but you have this feeling when you meet Miss Dash like she's been here forever. That's just what it feels like. So far, she has been not only a math teacher, but she's done volleyball, she has done tutoring, and now she's running student council. So she's a very busy person. I don't know when she sleeps. And she was nominated for Joy for a reason, so I'm going to read a few of the things of what her colleagues said. Miss Dash, I constantly see her bonding with students. She's told me students who she does not even teach come up to her just to say hello, and she's always bringing a smile to their faces, and I can tell students are just excited to go to her class. Another colleague said Dash Smith is a bright spot on campus for students and staff. Students love her math class, volleyball team and club, and working with her in student council. Dash brings so much joy to our campus. She's taken on some difficult roles like coaching and running student council, and she does them all with a smile. Everywhere she goes, kids run up to her to give her a hug or a high five. Their faces light up when they see her, and it is evident she feels the exact same way about them. She's quick to ask how you're doing and offer a hug when you need it the most. So we are so happy to have Miss Dash on our staff.
All right, Mrs. Lindberg, would you please join me at the podium? So I don't know OMS without Mrs. Lindberg. She's been there for 28 years. And these are some of the things, she teaches 8th grade ELA currently at OMS, and here are some of the things her colleagues had to say about her. Karen always follows the rules and makes sure her students do as well. She is always willing to learn new ways of doing things and does not resist change. I would like to recognize Karen Lindberg for her remarkable growth as an educator. She consistently demonstrates a positive attitude towards embracing challenges and is always willing to learn new things. Her ability to adapt to new situations with ease is truly inspiring, making her an invaluable member of the team. And finally, Karen is a valued member of our Firehawk family because of her experience and because of her character. She loves reading and enjoys sharing that passion with her students. She has high expectations for them and takes pride in teaching the whole child. OMS is a great school because of people like Karen. And Karen is recognized this evening for growth. So congratulations, Mrs. Lindberg.
8 years.
All right, next we'd like to welcome up Miss Tikovich. So Ms. Tikovich is nominated for integrity, and she is our master teacher, and when you see her teach, you know why. You have this feeling when you go in there, you're like, oh, so this is how you're supposed to do it. And so this is what some of her colleagues said about her. Erin is someone who always does the right thing, even when nobody is watching. She is amazing. If students need help with math assignments in the PRC sometimes, and if she's available, she is there within seconds helping them out. Erin Tikovich is the definition of integrity. She has always stood up for what is right and encourages the people around her to do the same. She's an incredible mentor and teacher who gets excited about bringing out the best in everyone. And Erin wears many hats, and she wears them all with grace. She is an amazing coach, teacher, program coordinator for 21st Century, and friend. No matter the role she's in, she fulfills it to the best of her ability, and she cares so much about the school and its students and the staff that she puts her best foot forward even when it's hard. Erin constantly puts others before herself because she truly believes our students deserve the very best. So we are so lucky to have Ms. Tikovich.
Mrs. Wharton, would you please join me? Mrs. Wharton is being recognized for her relationships, and she is in her first year at OMS. She's our EL teacher and volleyball coach, and she is our biggest cheerleader. If there's an event that has OMS students there, she is there. And so these are what her colleagues had to say about her. Mrs. Wharton, although Mrs. Wharton has been here a short time, she has made a huge impact on kids and parents alike. She has been so involved from coaching sports to 21st Century to parent engagement events to the light parade. Mrs. Wharton is always ready to be where the action is and ready to help. She goes out of her way to form lasting relationships with students, parents, and her colleagues. We are so lucky to have her. Patricia Wharton, because she always has a smile on her face and is generally always happy. I love it, and so do the kids. She has worked so hard to foster and support and nurture environment to our EL students and their families so they can learn, grow, and thrive. Ms. W sees growth potential in all of our students and holds them to the highest expectations possible. Failure is not an option. She works with admin to make sure they all are each in the appropriate level for classes and challenges students to move to a higher level whenever possible. I have to say, seeing you motivates me to be a better person, better principal every single day. So thank you so much for all you've done for us. Mr. Trainer. Mr. Trainer is our 7th grade special education, ELA, and math teacher. And we are incredibly lucky to have him as well. We came in together almost back, about 18 years ago, somewhere in there. And he's done so many incredible things for our kids, and these are what your colleagues had to say about you. Mr. Trainer works extremely hard to make sure that all of his students are able to understand and comprehend the assignment. He works so hard to provide his students with an education that matches their peers. Randy Trainer, he ensures equity for all of his students, and I couldn't be more thankful for someone to work with like him. Randy is an incredible member of our team. He does whatever it takes for his students to be successful. He has many talents, which include being an incredible artist, which he's very quiet about, but he's incredible. And he has a future as a stand-up comedian, which is very true too. He is quick to a smile and has a gift of putting his students at ease when they are anxious about an upcoming test or assignment. We are incredibly fortunate to get to work with him every day. Congratulations, Mr. Trainer. Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful. Yeah, give it up for OMS. Right on. Okay, next we have recognition of the Transportation Department. Dr. Robert.
And this is, just how many of you guys were out on the street for the electric light parade? Did anybody attend the light parade? Also raise your hand if you helped to decorate the bus. So this has been an idea in Debbie's head, our transportation supervisor, for a while. And this year, months before, Brendan came to me and said, hey, they've been talking about this in transportation for a while, so can we fill out the application? And so Brendan and I worked on getting the application done and whatever submitted months ago. And then Debbie came back to Brendan and was like, I really want to do this. And he's like, yeah, we've already put in the application for it. And so she was super excited that this was going to happen. Sam heard about it and he just jumped right on. He's like, yeah, let's do it. This is something that we want to do. Let's go out there and make a presence. And, being the electric light parade and being, a school district that I think is leading the way in energy efficiency, in electrifying our whole fleet. We don't have all the buses here now, but we've got 3 in-house and 6 on order, right, Sam? Yeah, so, we are well along the way to having a complete fleet out there that's electric. And so we wanted to go with that electrifying theme. So that's why you saw all the lightning bolts and just all the light. I got to say, it was a lot of things. It's not just recognizing the transportation department. Really, it's the spirit of this district that came together and made something. I mean, it was made possible in idea, and you got to get behind it from your department leader. So Sam, thank you for that, for getting behind this. But when it was time to decorate the bus, it took a week to decorate that bus. And I don't know how many people touched that bus in terms of getting it ready, but I would say over 60 hands touched that bus in terms of preparing it. Not only that it was a lot of hours of doing it, but it was fun. Yeah. We had a good time out there. People's creativity came out. And even where people weren't, I'm not creative, but it's like, tell me what to do, where to hang something, and get to be part of someone else's creative energy and see the product out there. It was so much fun. It was so much fun walking with the kids, seeing them, their energy. This parade was it was 3 miles. Things are starting to creak, as I move up in age. I was hurting for a couple days afterwards. I was like, that's a lot of walking. Yeah. But these little ones, and we had some little ones out there, no complaints. They were out there. I would say some people got there around 5 and left around 9:30-ish. Their energy level never went down. They were creating their own cheers when it was time for them to go crazy in front of the cameras. They went crazy in front of the cameras. They hyped up the crowd. They're going to remember this for a long time in terms of being able to participate in an event like this. This rolls right through the heart of Osborne, and we have to be there as a part of this and showcasing who we are to everyone. It's a community event, but it's beyond community. There were, I think, 250,000 people out there watching this parade and watching Osborne's bus go down. And, there are some other districts that had buses there, but we were the best by far. And we certainly brought the energy. It was just a super fun night, and I can't wait to do it again next year. The ideas are already there about how we can go bigger and better next year. One thing that I'm looking forward to, we've kicked this idea around, but it was so much fun decorating the bus with Osborne staff. I want to get parents in the community involved in that decoration process next year, so that's our step it up a notch next year.
I was there. I saw it. It was absolutely wonderful. I was there with my kids and some other Osborne kids, and they were just so excited to see their school represented. You know, it was getting kind of late there. We were all waiting for it the whole time. They're like, "Dad, we cannot leave. I need to see the Osborne bus." And so we waited, cheered you guys on. I don't think you heard us yell despite our efforts, but it was just phenomenal. And so I saw Board Member Ramos there too, and it was just amazing. So big thank you.
Yeah, if
for
I didn't
everybody
answer
involved.
you, I couldn't hear you. And it was like being on stage.
Yeah.
You're looking out there. They see you, but you can't see who's calling your name. So
Yep, it was great. Thank you so much. It was wonderful. We're going to do a quick little break right now, just 5 minutes. Brendan, I assume you want some folks, our Spread Love Award recipients, to gather. Do you want everybody up here, Brendan? Yeah. Okay. Yep, come on up. We'll just do a 5-minute recess. We'll come back in 5 minutes, okay? To move on with our agenda, we're going to move to the consent agenda. Are there any questions or items that anyone wants to remove from the consent agenda?
No questions, just some corrections on the minutes.
Okay, go ahead.
So it shows for the public hearing, both of the public hearings for November 19th, it doesn't say I was absent, so just want to make sure we correct that. And then for the second public hearing, it does say December 14, 2021, so if we can just correct the date.
Okay. And so, do you want to make a motion to approve the consent agenda with those revisions to the minutes?
Move to approve the consent agenda with those revisions to the minutes.
Perfect. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and it's been seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Hearing none, it does pass. Okay, moving on to the call to the public. Do we have anybody from the public who wants to call?
No.
Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on. We're going to take one item out of order, which will be our bond update. We have some folks, some visitors here for the bond update, and so we're going to take that before our board presentation. So you guys are more than welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting if you'd like, but not sure if you want to hear about the calendar or not. But come on up for our bond update.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Great. How are you guys? Nice to see you.
You too.
Thank you for letting me give you some updates here. Oh, great. Thank you, Brendan. So I will not take quite as much time. While everything is still in these, I don't have like a whole lot of large updates, but as far as package one on the encumbrances, that's our first slide. There really isn't any change to the encumbrances, so I'm gonna just kind of remind you that we are tracking this, but there really are no substantial, anything to report verbally here. So we'll move into Montecito renovations. So as you know, this is a very exciting project. We've got our design phase scheduled, that's established. SPS Plus, Dawn Brubaker has done our programming and all of that input. I know we reported on that last time, and that's great that we were able to get everyone from staff and students to community involved in that. Working into the schematic design. On last Wednesday during our biweekly team meeting, SPS Plus Dawn presented floor plans. We were able to have both Abby and, oh my gosh, thank you, present for that. So they were able to see kind of some schematic designs with the floor plans. Discussions of, hey, what if we did this, and are we able to do this? So we're really underway trying to map out what can be done. So that's been really great, having SPS Plus just kind of take the lead and move with this. We did complete the CMAR evaluation last board meeting. You guys voted to approve the process and the selection process for Chase Building Team. And I actually have Kate here today from Chase, so I would love to have her come on up.
My name is Kate Gunther, for those of you who didn't get to meet me when we did our presentation. I'm slated to be the project manager for the renovation project. Chase Building Team is very excited for this opportunity to partner with the school district. I myself am personally really excited because of the Montessori program. That's something that's near and dear to my heart, and if my district offered it, I'd be doing it, but my district doesn't. So your district is very lucky. So I'm very, but we're very happy to be a part of this project. Chase has been in the Valley for over 17 years. I personally have 15 years experience in construction, and overall Chase, it has 85% of our work is on occupied campuses. So we're really great at working and partnering with schools and with teachers and with staff to make sure that we have it go as smoothly as we can. Okay. Any questions?
Any questions for Kate? Kate, how do you feel about the kind of the timeline and getting everything delivered on the timeline that's been kind of presented to you?
I feel pretty confident. The nice thing is I've got some good history working with SPS Plus, and so we kind of are able to really work well together, and I'm able to nudge and give Dawn a little slap on the back of the head sometimes. But the rates are
No, I just think
Yeah.
it'd be good that let the women PMs tag team on this one.
Yeah.
So part of the CMAR process is that they get involved on a CMAR, the construction manager at risk, they get involved early on. So they're able to say, hey, not in this case, but hey, masonry is probably not the best way. We're seeing longer lead times. It's much more expensive. We can accomplish it this way. So having the construction company, the general contractor involved early on allows for a faster schedule. They're able to identify long lead items. We can, we work through what's called a GMP. It's a guaranteed maximum price. So in coming to that guaranteed maximum price, those are the things that are considered, right? Long lead times for this, what's this going to be? And it locks it in, right? So they identify, because they have the experience in knowing. So anything that is a long lead schedule, we make sure that we get those things ordered up front. The risk becomes theirs. And then everything else just kind of follows, if that helps at all. So
Yeah, I think it does. And
using this process is a really, it's preferred method.
yeah, wonderful. And I know it feels like we just, did the approval very recently. Is it the contract has a guaranteed maximum price contract been signed already, or when does that happen?
The contract has been signed, not countersigned.
Okay.
So it's ready to be countersigned on the district side.
Okay.
And once that is countersigned, so we're having a kickoff meeting on January 8th. And then we'll do our pre-construction meeting. So that pre-con meeting is lengthy. It's, as Kate knows, we spend a couple hours, and we personally, as an owner's rep, we have an agenda that we follow. And everybody knows the order of command, who's doing what needs to be signed first, second, third signatures. So it kind of spells it all out. But the GMP, that happens, it's not necessarily the contract, but it is part. It's what happens after the contract is signed.
Yep.
So it releases them to basically get that GMP in order. And we'll share that because that will be something that you guys will all vote on at one of the governing board meetings. is how we
Wonderful.
vote The GMP,
Wonderful.
typically.
And I think part of your question too, Ed, in terms of timeline, this is, cut me off if I start saying anything that I shouldn't about the whole RFQ process and everything. But they were chosen for a reason, and part of that reason is being able to deliver in what we've been asking of them. So that partnership and expectation is it's pretty clear from the onset, and it's part of why they were selected.
Wonderful.
Yep.
That's very true. The process isn't just, hey, whoever wants to, be considered for this project, just give us your, standard proposal. It's not that. It is very specific. The RFQ it's not just about qualifications. It's about, hey, we need everybody who's interested to be on site. All of that information was given to them so they understand the project. Now they have to go back and they have to look at every single element, and they have to basically commit to all of the things. And we had people, different contractors who did not submit after all, because they read through some of them and realized that they weren't going to be able to meet that. So hope that helps.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you so much. I just had one more question, more for H2. How are we looking with the playground, the new playground equipment? January still the expectation and timeline for that? January 25. I mean,
Let
I
me
was.
get to that. It's actually one of my
Oh,
projects.
wonderful! Even better.
Those are great. Yes.
Okay, because that was.
Anybody, do you have anything else?
no, I'm
Thank you so much for coming here, and you guys, I'm sure, will be at the next one too. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Super. So that's on Montecito. So the next one is the playgrounds
Oh,
and
wonderful.
shade structures. So
Oh, thank
perfect
you.
timing, yes. So as you know, the playground grant, that deadline was October. So we've got all of those POs have been cut, equipment has been ordered. So really it's just a matter of when the equipment comes in. I will say that Clarendon and Solano, their pieces of equipment, it's a smaller install. So it's likely that if it's in and ready, it can either be done over the spring break, or we'll just work out the best timing for that. And Canto that's a lot. There's a lot of equipment on that one. So the company that did this grant for us is they are agreeable to fence so that they can start, once the equipment starts to come in, that they'll be able to fence off so that even though there's student circulation, that site will be safe and that they can start doing some of that work even when school is in session.
And when I don't know, maybe a month or two ago, you said it was January. Is that still January, or is that?
Did I say it was January for install?
Yes.
Did I? Maybe on the other two campuses, but Encanto it just depends on when it comes in. That's really, and Encanto has so much equipment. So, and then Sam is going to have, and the irrigation team, there are a lot of components that have to come in to prepare. There's some demo involved for them. There's definitely, it's sprinklers, so they'll have to wait to, the playground company, install company will excavate, and then Sam's team will come in and kind of reroute some of these, because there's trees there. We don't want to lose those trees.
Right.
So
So is that like, if you could kind of ballpark it for me, when's that
I
all
wish
gonna
I
happen?
could.
Okay.
I will tell you, there will be zero delay.
Okay.
The minute that, and this company, and I've used them before, they don't delay at all. The minute it's available, they're ready to go. So it's really just a matter of that. So
Okay.
yeah, I wish I had like an exact time to give you, and I don't. But it's there will be, there's no reason to say, hey, let's just wait till summer. That's not going to be the case. We've actually considered that before we even signed off on the proposals. Yeah, so especially in particular on Encanto, we want you to be able to work while school is in session, and we want you to fence it off at your cost.
Okay. I was over on campus, or at least over there for the turkey trot, which was a blast, and those kids are jazzed for the new playground equipment. So anything you do to expedite it, get it over there, that'd be great.
And we want to build that excitement too. Very soon those signs will be done. So not only displayed in the lobbies, both here at the district office, but in the individual campuses. And then Encanto will have an exterior sign on the fence so that the community, as they drive down Van Buren, will be able to see it. So
Thank you.
yes, of course. So shade structures, that's kind of our next up item. We do have proposals for those. There was discussion of permitting, and we met with so part of this process too is to have met with each of the different principals, right? Establishing and showing them what is funded. We also listened after a couple of visits to some of their wish lists, per se, things that aren't necessarily funded, but that we are trying to, when and where we can save money, if there are some of these things that we can pick up along the way and get those done for the principals as well. So during those meetings, we didn't have the shade structure renderings to share, which those are so great. You saw them on the playground, and you know that that's what gets everybody excited. But today I did get one of them, so I was able to share that with Encanto. But at the next governing board meeting, I'll have those as part of my presentation so that you can see. And just to make sure that the principals, are good with what they're, getting, and to be able to see the fruit of what they had requested early on. So that's kind of where we are on that. Shade structures, they have to be permitted. So we're really at the mercy of the city of Phoenix. So.
And how long does that permitting process
That's
take?
the thing. It can be, it is so hard to tell. Dawn, do you have any, what is your latest? Yeah, I'm thinking at least 2 months.
2 months?
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah, so if anybody has any pull with the Phoenix permitting department.
Yeah.
But that's next up.
Okay.
Yes, or the
Okay.
shade structure. So everything has been pretty much, we've either gotten proposals, we've done all the walks, had all the conversations, all the input that we could get. And so now it's just a matter of,
Thank
so
you.
those are expected for install of summer. And then one of the other things we did was the SPED program, those facility assessments. Sarah obviously has this program, right? And she has a lot of workings that she's doing with the program itself, but there are facility considerations. So the district is really looking at yes, these campuses are where these are housing these particular and individual programs, but for longevity, 3-5 years, are they really going to be the best facility housing for them? So we've done walks with to every one of the campuses with Colleen and Sam and Dawn and Sarah, and kind of assessed what's each campus has at the moment, talking to some of the principals and finding out like what their needs are. Well, Colleen really has most of the information, but what their needs are. So let's say there's a large group of kids. At this point, maybe in 3 years, they can kind of time out that this next campus that's going to receive them is going to need to have a larger area for them if this many kids is going to be moving at some point to that. So a lot of planning on the district's part. And so we just completed all of those. So we're going to be working into these programming. I had mentioned that we'd met with the principals. Starting in January, we'll re-meet and we'll bring in Dawn to those different principal meetings so that he can start these programming processes, right? Like much like we did at Montecito. We had one with Teresa at Solano and trying to create what's called a master plan for each campus. And as a result of that, we'll create a larger master plan of all the campuses, and that allows Don and his design team to start doing some phasing and groupings. So that will probably be our next CMAR up to bat, is to, yes, to
Great.
get all those groupings. Any questions on that so far?
Just a clarity for the SPED program facilities, is that for like self-contained programs across, and we're looking at all the campuses or just certain programs? Okay. I don't know if this is something that's been thought about, but I think just seeing other campuses and, seeing what kids have needed in our schools in Phoenix Union, I think it would be great to consider like sensory rooms. Some schools even have 2 sensory rooms, like one for like more active kind of like sensory seeking, one for like more of like a calm environment. So, something like that. And then I think especially for like our older students, maybe at the middle school level, having like a kitchen area or places where they can work on some of those life skills. Just so some of those things are things that if they came into high school with some of those skills, they'd be even, further along and more advanced. So just some ideas.
Those are great questions, and they actually have come up. All of that has really been a part of it. The sensory rooms, we talked about it again today with Kim over in Encanta when we met with her on her principal semi-annual. Yes. So more to come on that.
Great.
So very quickly, I will go through technology. That is mostly, that's Jamal. So we've kind of talked to the principals about the location of their marquees, what's working with the marquees, maybe some adjustments that need to be made. Jamal has already like straight ahead with gathering the information. So he's already prepared with that pertinent information. Principal input has been given. The AV, especially in the lobby area, Jamal is already prepared for all of that. Starting in February, those monitors will start to go up. He's already got training. He's spoken to the principals. Trainings will be happening. So we're really underway with all of those tech updates too. As far as the SFD, coordinating for funding, we've done, Sam's worked very hard at getting the applications in for things like roofing and some of the other potential funding for SFD under the BRG, the Building Renewal Grant. And so we've got all of those applications in. They've all been received. So now it's just a matter of waiting to see when and if they're going to have funding for us. So more. We'll always be giving updates on the potential for BRG funding. And again, anything that we can get funded through grants, whether it was Playground or BRG, it frees up some of the money so that we can use it towards some of the other items on the principal's list that are the non-funded items. So trying to juggle all the plates, make sure that we get the absolute most that we can for every single dollar that comes through this bond.
Great.
So I will just kind of jump through a little bit here. So Solano, I told you we already have done that master plan. And so that's underway. Dawn is working on those. I think come January, February, we'll really start to see some of these master plans come into place. Roofing assessment, same thing. All those reports were done and turned into SFD. We finally got all of those exactly where they've asked us to get them. So those applications have been accepted. We just now need to wait to see what the next steps are for and when they can fund it. Life cycle analysis, SPS did a great job at obtaining these past reports. So these were reports that the district was having a hard time accessing, and Dawn knew how to get them. So they're important for your district to have. They kind of need to be owned by you guys and easily accessible. They help with determining life cycles as far as this was painted this, so the typical timeline and projection for changing the paint or doing paint or carpet or whatever it is, those life cycles are now owned and easily accessible with the district. So that's really important, and so I appreciate that Dawn was able to get that in place. We have done walks with electrical and mechanical, AZPE. They're both their electrical engineer and their mechanical engineer looked at equipment, have done some assessments. We have some equipment at Montecito that's now on a rental situation. That is a huge priority for me personally to get that, because that is not a bond-funded amount monthly.
Yeah.
So we have a plan in place. We've met 3 or 4 times, but it's riding that. We have a Montecito CMAR, so how are we, trying to make it all work where it's saving the district as much as possible, if that makes sense.
Oh, it makes a ton of sense because, I mean, the bond, our community's been really wonderful and allowing us to access bond funds to improve our school. M&O is a whole nother ball of wax, and we just that those funds are so precious and so limited. All funds are precious, certainly, but our community has less control over that. So anything we could possibly do and think up of how we can spend bond money to save M&O money, to put more of that money for teacher pay and staff pay and the things that only that can fund, the better. So I really appreciate you keeping an eye on that. And
Everybody's committed to it.
Yes,
too.
wonderful.
The electrical, mechanical,
Yeah.
Dawn, everybody's very committed to making sure that we, get rid of that
Yes.
cost.
Thank
as
you so
quickly as we
much.
can. Yeah, of course. And plumbing. So we want to I got a couple messages in. I haven't heard back yet. These sanitary sewer lining companies tend to be pretty busy. Now everybody knows about their lining services. And so I'm waiting to hear back from them, but we'll get them into camera and to give us some proposals to get that taken care of. So that's a great, I've worked on a lot of projects that have this lining. It's a good thing. Yeah, so it's time for you guys, and we'll get their reports after they camera it. But that is one of the next things that's up, and that is all I have.
Great. Any questions? Okay, hearing none. Thank you so much for the update. Always look
Awesome.
forward to it.
Thank you.
Yes.
My pleasure.
Absolutely.
Happy holidays.
Thank you. You too. Okay, moving back to the rest of our agenda in the order, we have a board presentation on the calendars.
And
Dr.
that is
Rivera.
me. Yes, and we're going to have calendars as a action item later, but I thought I'd use the time that we normally have for an administrative presentation for kind of going through the calendar. Of course, I'm willing to talk about anything and everything that I'm about to say when it's time for the actual action item, or when I'm done presenting this. If you want to take action on it, we can move to that. But I wanted, before actually bringing you to like voting on the calendar, I just wanted to walk through like how did we get here to being able to have calendars in front of you to make a decision on. So move on to the next slide. All right, so I'm going to describe the process that I went through. And there are basically 8 steps that we went through. Number 1, doing some research, soliciting input from parents, soliciting input from OEA, mocking some calendars, working within the administrative team, bringing out to staff for input, taking that back in, and then refining the process. So I'm going to walk through each one of these so you can kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about. So next slide. First step is researching neighborhood district calendars. So a lot of districts have calendars already put out for multiple years. My goal is for us to do the same. We're doing 2 years. That's what I'm bringing to you tonight. Next year, so we'll have 25, 26, and 26, 27 this year. Next year, I'm hoping to bring you 27, 28, 28, 29. And then at that point, we'll be 3 years ahead. So we'll always make sure that, as we're approaching like within a year and a half of getting to that point, we'll push out another 3 years, making sure that we're jumping way ahead. So this year, we're biting off twice as much as we did before. We're going to do 2 years this year. So Lisa started off just going online. I asked her, go get me information about these districts. And, I stick to the Phoenix Union footprint. Eric, who's going to be up on our board very soon, he's out there in Tempe L. When they do this, they look Tempe L, Tempe Union, Kyrene, and they try and stay within one another, right? Because those elementary kids feed into a high school district. When you're unified, you're unified. You just kind of worry about your piece. We work within the Phoenix Union. That's where our kids, we're anticipating and have partnership with Phoenix Union for our kids to move on to Phoenix Union High School District. So that's our starting point. But I look at Phoenix Union, I look at, Alhambra, Phoenix L, you can see. I pulled Levine, Creighton, a whole bunch of our neighboring calendars. One district that tends to do things a little bit different that's within that footprint is Madison, because a lot of their kids they know matriculate into Scottsdale for high school. So that's why like their spring breaks and fall breaks you may see different than what we have, but we know that greater than 90% of our kids move to Phoenix Union, so it's really important for our parents that we're aligned with Phoenix Union. So that's starting point. Analyzing some local district calendars, looking for similarities and differences. All right. That should say input. I thought I made that correction. Anyway, the next step was getting input from a parent committee. So one of the questions that came in was, how are parents selected? So I didn't have any specifics on how you go about this process, because I've been a principal. And I know what it's like, when there's an ask for me. There are different ways that we go about this. Sometimes I'll put out feelers to everyone. Sometimes I know in my mind, hey, this parent's been looking for an opportunity to get involved. I'm going to go to that parent that's finally like, here's the opportunity that I can get them involved. And sometimes it's one of those things that you get the same parents all the time. And if you put it out there, like, who wants to be involved? Those same parents get involved. So it's a chance to call in some parents into being there. So it was really important to me to reach out, number one, to every campus and to multiple parents. So reached out, I asked parents for 3 to 4 names. They did it in different ways. Some recommendations, some were parent volunteers, but got 3 or 4 names from every campus, reached out to those parents, see if they were interested. Those that were interested, they got an invite from me to be part of a Google Meets virtual invitation was sent to all those accepting. Questions on that? Meeting was really, really neat. Some standout things from the parent meeting. Number one, alignment with Phoenix Union was essential. Second thing that really stood out was our calendar this year, questions around Indigenous Peoples Day. We'll get to that when we look at our calendar, but parents had some input, like we didn't actually take the City of Phoenix's Indigenous Peoples Day off. And we've got this board declared holiday that comes like later in April, but how's their alignment between that? Like putting it, you have to put it down because we say that we have an Indigenous Peoples Day recognized, but what's the alignment with it being so far apart? Like we need to make sure if we're saying that there's a truly a recognition of that. So that was something that parents asked for, and we'll address that in here. And the last thing that parents were in particular bringing up was opportunities for, they had questions about early release and how long we've been doing early release for, and just wanting to, I asked them because there have been some input from some staff members, like, why early release on Wednesday? Maybe if we do it on Mondays or Fridays. And, some of that parent input was, around like they were satisfied with the early release on the day that we have it. Some of the, other concerns were like, if you do it on a Monday, an early release day, maybe you don't get as, if it's a half day, maybe some folks will make a full week, a 3-day weekend out of it. So, I talked a little bit about early release with parents too. Next slide. Next thing that I did, I have my monthly meetings with Storm, president of the Osborne Education Association. And so I told her, hey, we're working on this. I'm gonna, I told her about the parent committee, and I said, I'm gonna be working with getting all staff input, but I'd love an opportunity to talk with the association. She said, great. We looked at their schedule of when they have OEA meetings, and so there was a November date, because they've got their regularly scheduled long-range plan of meetings. So we found a time that worked for her and worked for me. So I think it was Thursday, November 13th or something, was a day that they don't do all of their meetings in person. They have some that are virtual. So I had a virtual meeting, which was like a regular OEA meeting, got input from the general membership, explained to them, like some of them have been around Osborne for a long time. They're aware of like how the calendar's built, but they gave some really good input on breaks or holidays. They had the same question about Indigenous Peoples Day. We looked at some one piece of input that's really important to them that they want to keep, because it's been through our staff that Wednesday before Thanksgiving was really important. And then this idea of maybe we could have teacher prep days or teacher only days where there aren't students, but teachers have an opportunity, whether it's for grading or whether it's for professional learning. So that's where that idea, and you'll see it in multiple calendars that we have, this idea of, okay, maybe we can start looking at teacher-only days, or, it's a non-school day for kids, but teachers are present. So once I've got this parent input, I've got the OEA input, I'm not ready to go out to the full staff. I met with my leadership team, so that's me, Colleen, Abby, Felipe. We meet every Monday morning or afternoon. So we sat down, we took that input, and we created some mock calendars, calendar A, calendar B, because we wanted to take that then to admin team. And so we just started imagining, what do you think are the questions that admin team members might ask? So that when we got into admin team, we've got tons of things to discuss, and we didn't want this to be an hour and a half build from scratch. We wanted to present and also anticipate some questions they may have. So when those questions came, yes, we're ready with responses, but you're not always ready for everything. So any question about this part of the process? So the next step, next slide, is that admin team review. Presented the mock write-ups to admin team, and then they start asking questions, like possibly having a day off. Is that going to be a teacher-only day, no kids? Is that for PD, like district level PD, or can we do like some staff PD, or is it only for teachers in classrooms? As we looked at like, okay, this is a board declared holiday. How does that impact payroll? For instance, if there's a day, well, I'll wait until we're actually looking at the calendar, but there are some payroll implications on when you take a board declared holiday, and folks' contract doesn't have it as a work day. What does that feel like for classified staff that don't get a 10 paid work day, where it falls in there? We'll get to that when we look at the actual calendar. State testing, there are questions about that. Funding questions. If we're asking for possibly another day for classified staff to be here, well, we don't have the money for that. That would have to be an ask of the budget committee, right? So looking at all those types of questions that the admin team had, we made any necessary adjustments to the calendar. They were able to see it right there, and then I asked them to imagine presenting this to their staff. How comfortable would they be? So we anticipated some questions staff might ask, and then I listened to everything the admin team had to say so that I could then create a talking points document that they would then take for making a presentation to their department for directors or to their staff for school leaders. Next slide. So then everybody went out and made their presentations to their staff. I asked, since we had a couple calendars, we normally don't do things by vote. You guys get votes, but we normally work on a consensus model. But with this, it's kind of hard to get everyone. I just wanted an idea of where do people actually fall on this? Are we in a consensus towards calendar A? Because if there was like a 95% wanted calendar A, I might have presented just calendar A to you tonight. Like, hey, we've kind of worked through this. This is where things are. Here go some other ideas that were out there, but this is our recommendation to you. I created a Google sheet, and they dropped their information in about how folks were feeling, which people wanted calendar A, which people wanted calendar B. On to the next slide. Once I had done that, there was still some confusion with some members of staff. And some folks, I think, had reached out to Storm. So she sent me an email and said, hey, I've been getting some calls or emails from membership, and they number one, there were possibly some mistakes on the calendar that we saw, but there were also some questions. So Storm had like 10 questions. I said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I took all of that, drafted an email that went out to all district employees with both calendar A and calendar B, made any corrections of anything that may have been wrong in the that people noticed, sent out the corrected calendars, sent out the talking points, and answered every single one of those questions that folks had about the calendars. And if this clarity possibly led them to maybe change from, oh, I voted for calendar A, but now that you've pointed that little detail out, I want to change my answer to calendar B. I let people know, email me back, and I will change your vote. And I had a bunch of people email me back with their, like, thanks for that input, here's my revision. I prefer calendar A now instead of calendar B. And so, next slide. So the raw data showed a preference for calendar A over calendar B, and I'll get to what A and B look like in a second, but it wasn't that much. So as you're looking, you don't have a mandate here from staff like, oh, we definitely want this over this. 54% of staff, and this is district-wide, departments, every school, the district office, everything. 54% like calendar A, 46% like calendar B. So now let me get into the actual calendars, what they look like. So go to the next slide, Jamal. Here goes calendar A. And I want you to just look up at the screen for a second, and I want you to notice how slight the differences are. Go to the next slide, Jamal, and back. Very little is moving. The majority of this is the same. So let me walk you through what calendar A that you're looking at, what this means. Calendar A is what we're doing now. This is basically taking what this school year looked like and creating a mock calendar. So starting date, right there when Phoenix Union starts and all of our partner districts, with a start date on August 4th for kids. All right? Nothing new for different about August. September 1st. Yeah, we lost our visual. We're back. Labor Day, that's the only thing in September. October, that orange is parent-teacher conferences, and then fall break. That fall break is completely aligned with Phoenix Union's fall break. Now, Indigenous Peoples Day. How are we going to handle that? So, Indigenous Peoples Day, as you know, City of Phoenix is, or basically it doesn't fall on a single date like Veterans Day does. Veterans Day is always November 11th, whether that's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Indigenous Peoples Day is kind of like MLK observed, President's Day observed. It's a particular, like the second Tuesday in October. That's right after, that's that Tuesday, or that Monday right after fall break. So in talking with parents, that parent committee, they looked at that and they were like, okay, We know that we asked you questions about Indigenous Peoples Day, but we really don't need a 6th day right in a row. Remember how I said when I had talked with the whole admin team, there are certain questions that come about, and payroll might be one of those? If you're a 12-month employee, it's different than being a school site-based 9 or 10-month employee in terms of when, how holidays work and things like that, and how you get vacation, all of that. So school-based classified staff get paid when kids are there. So that means if there is a break, like fall break, our school-based classified staff don't get paid on those days. They don't get paid for fall break. So their paycheck that week is only going to be for 5 days instead of 10 days. They know that. It's part of their pattern that they're used to in working in schools. If we took Indigenous Peoples Day on the 13th, that then is a 4-day paycheck out of a 2-week period. That's pretty rough, right? So what we are proposing doing is having Friday during fall break, October 10th, as Indigenous Peoples Day observed. What that allows for, now that we're calling it a board declared holiday, our classified staff will get paid on that day off. So they'll get 6 paid days during that 2-week payroll period instead of 5. That Monday then, which is actually Indigenous Peoples Day, PAC is going to be closed on that day because the city of Phoenix is closed. We could take that day off. You see what the payroll implications are. There's also another implication. If that day is closed, then what day are we then open later in the year? Okay? So just imagine now if we took the 13th as Indigenous Peoples Day and put a blue square there. That's only 179 days of school. So where's that 180th day going to go? Well, look ahead at November. Veterans Day, that's a national holiday. Can't do that one. Thanksgiving, we've already gotten very clear direction from our staff. They want that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Winter break is winter break. We can't do anything about MLK. We can't do anything in February about President's Day. The 30th of March, that's Cesar Chavez Day observed. That's already like, are we going to trade this for that? We just brought Cesar Chavez on about 5 years ago, Colleen? Somewhere around there. So there are 2 possibilities for bringing back an extra day of school. April 24th. See that day there? That's a board declared holiday.
Yep.
We could bring that day back, make it nothing, but then there's not a single day off in the month of April. We've gotten input from staff that is not tenable, especially after testing, right? I actually presented that to the parents, and the parents were like, don't do that to the teachers, please. So we don't want to bring that day back. We could move the last day of school to the 22nd, but staff don't want Friday to be the last day. That means that all of their records, everything has to be done on that last kid day. We had that last year or the year before. Nobody likes that. So it's really, unless you're blowing up the calendar and like we're redoing the calendar completely, there's not many places, not many changes that you're making. So I see there are questions, so I'll field them. Leanne,
Go on, Leanne.
Well, just in having this conversation, I was also wondering if there are a few districts, and I know probably the closest one is Phoenix L. I know there's a couple others that do a whole week off during Thanksgiving, the week of Thanksgiving. And so they would start, instead of, starting on the 4th, they would start 3 days earlier, and that's how they build in their Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday before that. So I don't know. I'm thinking just from this conversation, you know, if we were to add days there and start maybe 3 days earlier, hearing the feedback about having that like shortened week as like a soft start, and then, you know, not having to figure out that extra
Mhm.
day because we could build in that as a. Does that make sense? 'Cause
It
there's
does.
that
It does.
Monday,
And there's a calendar B too that has some of that too.
yeah, I don't see that on calendar B, but that could just be a solution. Just I know that that's separate from what we have here, but that's another idea. I mean, I don't know as like a parent. I know in Phoenix South that was pretty popular and they've kept it around, and a big part of that was because there's so many staff members that come from out of state here in Arizona, and especially in the Phoenix area. So the idea was that they would have that additional time for travel, and I can tell you it was so valuable for me. But it also, like at the beginning of the year, having a soft start of 3 days was really nice. So just another thought as we're having these conversations, and that could maybe be a solution to that extra day. I don't know.
Okay. Thank you.
I like calendar A. I don't like the idea of starting school in July. I just think I know it's only 2 days, but it still would be a shift from what we're doing right now, and it wouldn't be aligned with Phoenix Union. I like being aligned with Phoenix Union as much as possible. And I think starting in August, like we did this year, would be the best. I also don't like starting in July because it's just 2 more days of school where the kids can't go outside and play. It's just so darn hot. And we're getting better. We're getting more shade out there, which is great, but it's still just so darn hot. So I like A. I think when it comes to Indigenous Peoples Day, I think I totally understand it and get it. I think the way it's set up in A is acceptable to me. I think what we need to do if we end up going with this for Indigenous Peoples Day is really message really hard, both because we value our Indigenous students and community and want to recognize the day, but also because PAC is closed.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of snuck up, the feedback I got is that, it kind of snuck up on people. And so I'm sure that's feedback the committee got as well.
And we could really make that Monday the 13th, bring a curricular focus.
Correct.
to-
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Really, if we're going to be in school that day, bring absolutely curriculum, learning, all the kids coming home from school that day, understanding what that is. My only question is, I guess is either A or B. Is this April?
Yep.
Why the 24th? I know we're just looking at the one you got. Why the 24th? Is that a day that I know we're really focused on attendance.
Yes.
And so if we have to take a holiday in April, I would want to take whatever historically we have the lowest attendance of, which I would presume would be either a Monday or a Friday. Is that why the 24th was chosen? Why the 24th?
So I'll answer that question in like 2 minutes. Okay. But we're good with the understanding with Indigenous Peoples Day, because I could move the rest of the calendar pretty quickly and then get to that April question.
Part of it, I'm just thinking of it from a parent perspective, when it's harder to, probably easier to find, childcare with some folks being off work on Indigenous Peoples Day than kind of a random day in April. The other hand is, I'm hearing the feedback that people want a holiday in April.
Then because there's not a day off in May either. We just end around the 20th. So from March 31st until May 21st, you're just in school the entire time. And that's just, it's just rough. So why, I'll answer your question right now, Ed.
Yeah.
Why the 24th? So it's a board declared holiday. Sometimes that board declared holiday has fallen in April, right around the Easter weekend. Of course, we're not calling it, based on a religious calendar, we're not calling it an Easter weekend, but looking at attendance patterns, sometimes on that weekend you'll have folks that, we've got staff that definitely take that day off. We have staff that, will take use annual leave days for religious observation. So, to curb potential attendance issues, that board declared holiday, when it falls around the right time in April, has fallen on what's, from a religious observation, Good Friday. That Good Friday in 26, 27, or 25, 26 just happens to be Friday, April 3rd, which is the same week that we're going to be off on Monday, and then having it on that Friday, and then again, a long stretch till the end of the year. The feedback that we got was to not have it then. So which Friday then to take it in April? And the feelings were April is when state testing is. So taking it towards the end of that testing, you don't want to get it, in the beginning of the month. Like if we were to take it on the 10th, that's going to be like right in the middle of ELA and math. Or like the first week is going to be writing, and then the next week you got ELA and math and doing makeups and all that. So the 24th was around, number one, to have the break so that there's a day off every month and to not interfere with the testing schedule.
And so when is testing over?
It's a block. It's a block of time in the month of April. So you've got a week during which writing happens, then you've got ELA and math that are happening, and then you're also doing makeups during a certain period of time. So you're finishing probably around I would say that week of the 20th is when you're doing makeups and getting everything, fully submitted to ADE, declaring that you're done. We looked at the 17th, we looked at the 24th, and from a curriculum department perspective, the 24th was better.
I'm just wondering if there's some messaging in there, like, I know it's board declared holiday, but if there's also an opportunity for messaging of like testing ending celebration, I don't know.
Hey,
Just,
if that's what you want to call it, we can call it that.
Yeah, I'm just kicking that around as like, if there's just to take advantage of the messaging.
Sure.
But
So that was that piece. And then in May, ending on a Thursday, really important thing for our staff is ending and then having a full day, because teachers have so many days in their contract. And so they report 4 days before school, and then they've got 1 day at the end of school.
Other questions, comments?
That's just calendar A. I do want to get to calendar B.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Any questions about calendar A? Calendar B. Next slide, Jamal. It actually changed, and you may not have noticed that it changed because there's such little change. But there's a premise behind calendar B. The premise behind calendar B that came in through that conversation with OEA was, wouldn't it be cool if we could possibly have a day that students don't come in, that teachers have to start the new semester? So they were looking at coming back from winter break. So that's why you see Friday, January 5th as a student-free day. So that would be teachers on campus. It would also bring, there's a monetary ask out of this, okay? So we're asking for this day for teachers, but we also think, look at this as professional development opportunities. This is a day that Sam could be doing training with his drivers. This is a day that Corey can bring in his staff and do some training with them. This is an ask of the budget committee. It's asking for an extra day or two for all of our staff. So there is a bit of an ask from the budget committee. It's not a substantial, and in a year where we actually have more enrollment, it's probably a good year to be starting with if we're going to have any ask from the budget committee. So this would be a day that would allow for all staff to be back and doing what they need to do to get ready for kids coming. All right? So everybody get that? See the reason for that. So when you do that, when you add that extra day in there, then there's a shift that needs to happen. All the regular holidays, Labor Day, MLK, Cesar Chavez, board declared holiday in April, all that stuff remains the same. We've just taken the first day, or we've taken that day in January now, and we're taking it without students. So we got to add a day back. right? Jamal, go back one slide. What if we added that day at the end of the school year? So instead of finishing on the 21st, let's finish on the 22nd, right? Because we're going to take Monday, January 5th. Our staff doesn't want to do that. They definitely want there to be a teacher release day at the end of the year too, after kids have gone. Their day for shutting things down, okay? So we're not going to move it to Friday the 22nd. Go back, Jamal. I'm sorry, I'm running out of voice here. So we looked at, okay, could we start then one day earlier? You would never start the school year on a Friday. Kids just won't come. Everybody's going to come on Monday. It'll just be a waste of a day. So we thought, okay, in order to make it to where people feel like, okay, we're going to start school, we're going to start 2 days early. So we pushed it up to that Thursday, the 30th. Sorry, Thursday the 31st of July as the first day of school. Soft start to the school year, just 2 days, and then that idea was really popular in terms of like starting the school year with just a couple days. You spend those days going over rules and things like that, and then boom, Monday, you're ready to just get right there into curriculum, right? A slow beginning. That first week of school, it's a hard week, man. Everybody's done by the end of the first week. So having a slower start to the school year would actually feel really good. I know, Ed, you don't like that July 31. That's not necessarily a popular idea, in terms of like July, but that's just the idea of the soft start, okay?
I mean,
so
I don't, if we're going to do a soft start, I would prefer to do it in, August, just rather than starting in July.
Right. And so what's then the shift that happens? If you shift one day more, we have this all balanced by by semesters, so that we've got 180 days. We've got basically around 90 days in the first semester before winter break and 90 days after. Otherwise, and that's nice to be done, report cards done before you go for winter break, rather than let's start a little bit later in August. Okay, then we're shifting the end of the semester to a week into January. Then you've got to hold off. It doesn't make sense to move that way. So if you're going to be moving deeper into August, it doesn't allow for that semester split at winter break. And we made that shift from trimesters. Were any of you guys on the board when we had trimesters? Okay.
I think it was my first
Maybe your
year.
first year. We made a move away from trimesters to semesters for the purpose of reporting to parents. Quarter semester instead of trimester. Just one added opportunity for that feedback, academic growth, all of that. So again, and we were talking about long-term thinking with bond dollars. We also try and do long-term thinking where we don't want to change a calendar, 3 years shift our focus from that, 3 years later shift with that, We made a decision a few years ago that we're in a semester system, not a trimester system anymore. So we're really trying to stay consistent with that, beyond just a few years of trying it out. So that's kind of why not on that, Ed. So that soft start, the first 2 days, July 31, August 1, and then you're fully at it on Monday, August 4th. Everything stays the same in the first semester. Second semester, you've got starting with a teacher day or an all-staff day on the 5th. And then all the rest of the year is just like calendar A, except the last day of school moves up to the 20th. Because we added one day, moved back 2 days for the beginning of the year, so that last day, just the shift of days, the balance. So if you were choosing calendar B, It's because of, really, it's all about January 5th, that day for professional learning for the entire district. It's going to cost a little more. So we're asking, that with that, we're going to be making an ask to the budget committee for extra time. It also cuts into the beginning of the year. So here goes another thing too, just to think about. There are those 5 days that are normally there for within that teacher contract. 4 days, they come before school starts. So like if school starts on a Monday, all staff normally report on a Tuesday. Jamal, go back one slide. Back one. Okay. Okay, that's calendar A. With calendar A, the first day for all teachers is Tuesday, July 29th. They have those 1, 2, 3, 4 days there before school. And then the 5th day is May 22nd after school. Okay? Forward one slide, Jamal. Now those 5 days are 1, 2, 3 days in July, Monday the 28th, 29, 30. 1 day on January 5th, and then the 1 day after the last day for kids, May 21st. If you're voting for calendar A, it's keeping things as is. If you're voting for calendar B, it's that added piece for that professional development day. You saw the recommendations that came from staff in terms of numbers. It's almost 50-50. People would be very comfortable continuing with the status quo, with calendars as is. There was also a strong feeling, almost 50%, 46%, saying, let's try giving that extra day for professional learning a go.
Is there any way to do option A and also do the day for professional learning on January, I guess, 5th?
Jamal, go back one.
I guess, perhaps getting rid of that, just kind of thinking out loud here, if we got rid of the April board declared holiday, could we then do that professional development day? Would that be an option?
It's an option, but I will direct all the emails to you.
The emails being...
It's high, nobody wants that.
Got it.
But you can do that.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just
No, it's okay. No, it's all good.
Get my late night sense of humor.
Oh,
with
it's all
a
good.
little
No,
cold.
I'm just kind of musing, and I appreciate that. I like a good blunt response. So, okay. The questions, comments... I think we're at the end of the presentation.
At the end of the presentation,
Correct.
and there's also opportunity when this is you can ask all your questions, you can have all your conversation. It's also an action item.
Yes.
So it's going to be coming up a little bit later. You can save your questions then, you can, all your commentary, whatever you want to do.
Can we go back to the results real quick of the survey?
Yes.
So when you...
Back one, Jamal, and back one more.
So
There we
what
go.
I'm seeing is when you let them know they had the ability to change the selection, so there was more that did go towards calendar A, right?
So the first time that when directors and principals went and talked, and they went onto the Google sheet and they filled it all out, the vote was 56% calendar A, 44% calendar B. When people had an opportunity to change, fewer people wanted calendar A. It moved a little bit more to calendar B when they had the clarifications. Now, Violetta, I don't know why those clarifications made them change their vote.
Before I forget, really appreciate everybody doing this work. And I think 2 years is wonderful, and I'm glad we're going to 3 years. I think that's awesome because, there are families who are already thinking about summertime right now, and taking a vacation in July and whatever. So getting out in front of this early is wonderful. I like option A because it tracks closest to Phoenix Union, and I think that's really important, among other reasons. But really appreciate everybody doing this hard work. And if other questions or comments, I'm going to move on to down the agenda, and we're going to come back to this for a vote unless I see any other questions. Board Member Greenberg.
I wanted to clarify on the calendar B,
Mhm.
in the visual, it has spring break marked as the 9th through the 13th.
Correct.
But the dates below in the box do not match that.
Oh,
Is that
we'll
just
fix
an
that.
error?
We'll fix that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's important that all the information at the bottom match. What's up on the top?
It was just an error, but okay. And then the same with the conferences that align with that.
Yeah. Mhm.
Good eye. Okay. Don't put those calendars too far. We're going to come back to this here shortly. We're going to move on from our presentation onto administrative reports since November meeting. Any questions or comments on the administrative reports? Seeing none, just appreciate all of the hard work that goes into those.
Not a question, but I think it would be good to have another work study where we really take a dive into the data. I know that we generally I don't want to say that we pass over the data, we look at the data, but we don't always have in-depth conversations about them at our
Mhm.
board meetings. And maybe that's something as a board, maybe we should start doing. But I thought it was really great when we did that deep dive. So I'd like to do that again.
Agreed.
In our reporting as well, can we, I know that Mrs. Fernandez said that some of the data from the suspension report was incorrect. Can we change that
Yeah.
in the agenda and publish it again? 'Cause
Oh,
I
yes.
don't want to publish
Absolutely.
incorrect data for our
Yes,
community.
we will bring it. It'll not only, there will be two things. Number one, well, it's actually not an approval type of item because it doesn't sit in consent or an approval. It's just a report. But the report will be, number one, Melissa Robinson already worked with Kim earlier. She's already made the changes. We did that today. Can't make an amendment to the board item on the day of. So, if we had 24 hours, we would have changed it. But next month when you come back, not only when you look back, you're no longer going to see that data. You'll see the correct data reported for the month of October. Or sorry, for the month of November.
Great. Okay, moving on to action items. We're back here. Action item A is approval of school calendars for the 2025-26 year as well as the 26-27 year.
And I showed you calendar A, calendar B for the 25-26 school year. 26-27, I did the same thing. Like I took the squares and made them fit the 26-27 calendar, but there's nothing substantively different. It's the same philosophy used from next year's calendar to the following year calendar. And by the way, I was really hoping to work collaboratively with Phoenix Union on developing, and they just approved their calendars through 31.
Through 31? Yeah. Holy moly. I mean, that is wild. I appreciate the sentiment of trying to, in an ideal world, we would, and I understand it, other districts like you mentioned Tempe, they do have a committee, a cross-district committee. That would be wonderful, but wow, that's what, 6 years,
Well,
7 years?
it's only 3 years worth of work. They were already approved through 28.
Yeah, okay.
So they added
But
3 more years.
So
onto it.
if you could, pass along to our friends at Phoenix Union next time you're doing it at a, calendar, put us on the committee.
If you'll have me till 2031, then I'll do that. But I'll make sure someone does.
Oh, thank you so much.
You decide otherwise.
He's like, I don't know about that.
I don't know.
That's a ways.
2031. It feels like forever from now. Okay. We are on the action item of approving the school calendars for the next 2 years. Do we have other discussion or motions or questions?
I've previously worked on a calendar like calendar B, and as a teacher, I loved it because, like Clerk Greenberg said, it's nice to have those 2 days kind of easing in. However, I felt like those 2 days were kind of a wash in terms of instructional content. A lot of kids absent those 2 days, and basically started on Monday with a repeat of the the Thursday and Friday, so I am going to be inclined to vote for calendar A.
Um, it's a really hard decision, right? But as a former teacher, I always wish that when we came back from winter break that we had a day to be able to prep, plan, move things around, right? So as of now, I'm inclined to vote for calendar B, because even when I did start the semester at the regular time, that first week was a wash, and I remember working on summer planning or working during this last summer with the World Languages Department, and we even actually put that into what we were thinking, that week is not really a lot of instruction anyways. You're getting everybody prepared, so I do feel that starting those 2 days might help our teachers. We typically don't see that many absences when it comes to, or at least like the way we see it in high school when it comes to the elementary school districts. So yeah, I'm just gonna say I'm inclined to vote for calendar B.
Again, I think, from my experience in elementary, that soft start was really valuable. I, also didn't, necessarily experience something different in terms of attendance, but so much of those first 2 weeks are working on procedures, walking in line. Where do I put my backpack? Like, how do I sit at the carpet? How do I do all of these things? And there's, a lot of repetition that's happening. I think for especially our youngest students, having been on break and then having like a couple days to ease back into it, to me was really valuable. I've also worked in districts where the first week back is a full week, and I could see some benefit to that, but just from my observations and my experience, I appreciated that. I also see how having a day of professional development or a day of additional preparation can really be valuable. In my current position, looking at the professional development needs, sometimes as the school year is going on, we're seeing a need for certain support for teachers. And so I think having that day in the middle of the school year allows us to say, hey, look, here's how semester 1 went. Here's some things that we need to work on as a department or as a school. And now we have that day built into our calendar to really, I don't know if it resets the right word. That might be the right word, depending on what the needs are. But, to really have that time to focus on those goals and finish the school year strong. So I think at this point, I do appreciate the feedback from staff. I know that the vote was really close. I would like to try calendar B. And it would be great to get some feedback over this next year and maybe the following year if we continue with that, if there's no, major things with the 25, I can't believe it's the 25-26 school year. And then see, what went well, what didn't. I'm sure that there's going to be some things that we're going to say, hey, that wasn't that great, but this really was. And maybe we kind of, reflect on that. I would be interested to see, if there's an interest in having, if this goes well, maybe we do look at, a week for Thanksgiving, maybe not. I think different schools have different school districts have different needs. So if that's something that they wanted to try later on, that could be an option too. But I think at this point, I'm going for calendar B.
Yeah, and I'm going for calendar A. Talk about close vote here. I mean, this is why there's probably 5 members on the board supposed to be, but I just think that I might call on Eric here, and that he is here in the back. But to me, the feedback that I get and that I think the committee got kind of first and foremost is track with Phoenix Union. And for better or for worse, Phoenix Union kind of, big sibling is setting 5 years in advance or 7 or whatever it is, years in advance. And so we don't really get input on that. It's set for us. And I just think we're doing it this year. We're following suit with Phoenix Union. It, for the most part, worked out. Maybe we'll do some better messaging with Indigenous Peoples Day and some other things around that. But besides that, I think it worked out. I just think we really need to stick to Phoenix Union's schedule as tightly as possible, and that's an August start. And so I think option A makes the most sense, and that's what I'm going for.
If I can give a couple pieces, Violetta, you've got a question.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that the difference with Phoenix Union, especially now, is that there's a lot of days on the calendar where teachers don't have students in the classroom. And so they call them I days. So they do that once a month. They have the late starts as well on Wednesdays, which is like reverse of what we're doing, right? So because that's when they do the collaborative meetings for the teachers. So there is a lot of opportunities for the teachers at Phoenix Union to have days without students that we don't get to see that for our Osborne teachers. So the only reason I've just to explain my train of thought is having been a teacher at the high school district and seeing how many days teachers get without students versus knowing how many days teachers get without students at Osborne.
So 2 quick pieces of information that I wanted to add in there that I didn't say in the first part. Calendar B, the way we have up there in the presentation, you guys have the calendars right in front of you. Look at the calendar that's in front of you, not the one that's up there in the presentation, because if you look at the bottom of it, for calendar B, when it's 2 days at the beginning of school, we also wrote those in as early release days. You can change that if you want to. I'll tell you why it was written as early release, and if you want that, great. If you don't, then fine. As if we're moving to just having staff for 3 days before kids start, that would give us those afternoons to still. It's really hard to ask teachers to come in and only have 3 days to prepare. But then there are some really, really, really important meetings that we also have. Like your principal's got your teachers there on that first day. But there are certain things like with the EL department, calling all the SEI or dual language teachers together. SPED department, calling all folks together. We do like our district convocation, things like that. It's really hard to have teachers come back for 3 days and not just give them that time in their room. So we were proposing on that calendar B, those first 2 days being early release, just so we'd have time for doing some of those meeting types of things on those first couple days. Makes for a very soft start. There was some feedback from one particular teacher that I just wanted to read because I told him I'd read it. He said, never gave feedback the first time, but I like the idea of a short week for kids starting, but not as early release. I believe that confuses parents. And this individual also said, as much as I would enjoy a work day in January, even if it was PD or just time to work, it may be a hardship for parents.
Yeah, that's what, early release start, the enrollment, the attendance of those 2 days is going to be abysmal, given, one, it's a change from what we're currently doing. So that's already hard to message. And then 2, it's like, folks are still oftentimes doing vacations and whatnot in July, and people are going to be like, 2 early release days, I'll see you next week. I don't like B anyways, and like it less, it being an early release.
Just my 2 cents. I'll give 2 cents worth. Just because it's something that hasn't been tried, but I'm just hearkening back to my teaching days. The idea of starting, just working for a couple, because like you mentioned, Violetta, that first week, sometimes it feels like the whole first week is lost. That idea of like just having them for 2 or 3 days, we'll do the light stuff for a couple days, and then come in right solid curriculum right from the start on that Monday. I like the idea of a soft start. I also like the idea of maybe having that PD opportunity, not only for teachers to have that release time at the mid-year point, but also across the district for some additional training, and training that may be based on what we saw, from departments, additional training that may be needed. But I didn't put a vote in this tally. That's just my personal feeling. It might be time for something different. Status quo is great. It's worked great for me for 18 years here in Osborne. And if calendar A is a choice, I'll be totally happy with that. If calendar B is a choice, it offers a small change, but it could be a small change that offers some good. And we can collect some data on that. So democracy is about to happen in this room, and we'll see how it works out. And if we get a calendar, great. If we don't, we'll see you next month.
Somebody who's about to join us up here and have to explain to parents why there's a day here and a day there and a day there. Eric, do you want to weigh in? Feel free to punt, by the way.
If you're gonna speak, come on up.
I'd like you to come up.
I do
don't
want to
have
say though, in terms of, hold on, just 1 second, Eric. I do want to be careful. I absolutely can't wait until Eric's a board member, but I also want to be conscious of the fact that if this is the board that's making a decision tonight,
Absolutely.
and so I think this board needs to make a decision, and you'll be differently configured in a month from now, and that'll be Eric's opportunity to weigh in on it and also present a vote. So I'm not going to stop in the way of something, but like as a parliamentarian, I might.
Only if you want to, Eric. No pressure.
I would agree with Dr. Rivera.
Okay.
I'm not a board member.
Okay.
I would be inclined to vote for calendar B if we move those days into July and then give the whole week off for Thanksgiving. I would be inclined to vote for that.
But then we won't have the 180 days.
I mean, I'd move for if we're gonna do a soft start.
Couldn't we move?
I
would
think
do-
we
Also, you would get
start
ready
on
for
the
January
30th, and the last day of school is May 21st. And I think at that point, I mean, you don't notice it. Well, I don't notice. I guess I'm speaking for myself, but it was very popular in Phoenix L.
It sounds like we want a calendar C option.
Sounds like.
So, I mean, you want to talk this through? You want to talk like?
Here's
What's
my
your-
2 cents.
Yeah.
Even though they were very, very close, calendar A was the favorite of the staff. And so I'm inclined to vote for what is statistically the favorite of the staff. I know it's close, but there is a clear winner. If we're voting for the president, +1 becomes the president. That's just how it is.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean,
Unless it's a ballot
Rihanna, do you want to let's just
Ultimately, we're
let's
not
just
Florida.
let's do the votes. Let's see where they lie. Do you want to make a motion on that?
I will move to approve calendar A.
I will second that. All in favor of calendar A?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
2 votes. Correct me if I'm wrong, but 2 votes yes, 2 votes no.
That's correct.
Okay, is there alternate motion?
it's going to be the same result.
But make them, do the process.
I move to approve calendar B. Yes, I move to approve calendar B.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor of calendar B?
Aye.
Aye, sorry.
All opposed?
Nay.
It is 2 votes for B, 2 votes yes, 2 votes no. Both
so
motions have failed.
I do suggest we go back and look at it because I do agree that those 2 first days should be whole days and not half days. I mean, I also, again, putting my teacher hat back on, I do remember a whole week of just being in class. I mean, not having students. It gave room for district to put a lot of meetings on our calendar, and some of those meetings were not useful. And so I remember always thinking, if we had less days and can bring the kids in for a soft start would be great. But I would want those days to be full days.
Look, we don't have to make this. Last year we did this decision in January. We don't have 3 votes here, so I think we need to move on. We'll bring this back in January. I know we'd like to do this as early as possible, but it'll give us more time to have some conversations. it will be impossible to have a 2-2 vote in January, and we'll move on from there.
Unless someone abstains.
Can I put another thought on the table, even if we do
Sure.
vote? So, just again, I'm using Phoenix L because that was an experience with this soft start. They also, so for kindergartners, those first 3 days were half days for kindergarten only, and then everybody else, it was full days. So that's another suggestion, just as that soft start, especially for our kindergartners that have never been in preschool or never been in full day school. That's something else that
And,
maybe we want to consider,
adding-
not to throw something else up.
Yeah, no, at Encanto, where they have the largest of the kindergarten enrollment, they do kindergarten jumpstart. My girls both did it, and it's wonderful. And I'm really hoping that we can, at Longview and Solano, we can start doing that as well. But same concept, and it really is helpful.
Before moving on, if it's input that you want on this, Leanne, you were bringing up the full week in November. If that's something that you want back in, to discuss next month, let me just add a couple pieces in right now. I know this is getting long, but we're going to be talking about it now or later. So it's better for me to go and get input rather than bring it to you in January and say we didn't get input. Number one, if we're considering the entire week of Thanksgiving as an option, if you want that as a calendar C, number one, I definitely want to reach out to staff to see if that's something that they would get behind. I could put together a survey and get input from parents.
Yep.
But here go just the wrenches in it. You take 2 days away there, you got to add 2 days back in, right? Adding 1 day at the end of May, easy. Moving 1 day sooner in July, possible, but then when do we invite our staff back?
Could we take?
Then
I
th-
do not think that day in January is necessary to take off, so I would come back on the Monday. That would be where I would put that day.
So then that
I would add
takes
one
away
day
the
in May and
professional
take away
development.
the day in January.
Okay, so the purpose behind this calendar B was the day in January, so I would almost want to bring it back as a calendar C with that day in January taken away, because now it's creating a third option. Option A is status quo. Option B is arranging things so that there's this mid-year day without kids for staff to have some professional learning. And option C is arranging the calendar for this full week in November.
Can I ask, and maybe this is another piece of feedback. So I know that we do early dismissal every Wednesday, and I don't know if this would be popular, but if it was, I don't know, every other Wednesday, or we had something else so it wasn't every Wednesday, and then we're like having full days of professional development built into the calendar. So does that make sense? So the kids are still getting their hours or minutes because we're taking away some of those early dismissals, but then giving more maybe robust professional development on a select number of full days.
Just adding minutes back in, there are two things that have to be satisfied. You have to have a 180-day calendar, or you have, and you have to satisfy minutes. And it varies from grade level. So OMS has more minutes that are required than, the younger kids. But I think just doing like a 176-day calendar isn't an option. Where you can do something that's completely different is, like there was that additional 200-day calendar, or for districts that have gone to a 4-day week. And then they've increased the minutes. But I don't think you can just add minutes and take away some days. Away from the 180. Colleen, am I correct on that statutorily?
Yeah. Are we comfortable moving on for purposes of another item? Okay. So stay tuned for this back in January, potentially an option C. Who knows? Maybe a D. But we will definitely make a decision in January.
Okay. So I am going to you do want feedback on option C. Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Got it.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate all the work. And this still is kind of.
We need clarity on the C, like, are we saying we're taking away January 5th for option C?
That's
or are we
what- yeah.
saying we're adding a day on the front, a day on the end, leaving January 5th and doing a full week at November?
That's how I would work it. As a teacher, I would love the January 5th day off. As a parent, that's a nightmare for me for childcare.
Yeah.
Because parents are working on that Monday, and to just have a random Monday off that's not a holiday, that's a federal holiday that most parents have off. I would not prefer as a parent.
So it's pulling
Pulling
24,
January.
25 as days off and adding January 5 and May 21 as school days.
Yes.
I would say leaving January 5th and adding a day on the front and a day on the back. Maybe that's a calendar D.
That
but
Yeah, but
I'm
the
just thinking the feedback about having that professional development.
Yeah, I think that's, I mean, we're keeping in mind the Phoenix Union calendar, but also mostly, right? But also that request of having that day in January, so January 5th.
Can we also see data for absences?
That's a great idea.
For the 2 days before Thanksgiving. Can we see the data for like an absence report for those two specific days? I feel like if families there's only 2 days of school. Maybe a lot of families take that off, but I haven't seen the data on that.
That's a great point. I'd love to see that too, and maybe even April absence data. But we'll have time to do all that and look at that, and we'll talk about this more in January. Okay. Moving on to action item B, approval of preschool tuition rates for the 25-26 school year. Colleen, come on up. I noticed that there was no change in the proposed rates, but still appreciate the opportunity to vote on it.
Yes, correct. We're recommending no changes to the current fee structure for next school year. We in the background there on the board page just added some. Stephanie Sotomayor, our director of preschool programs, she helped put together some kind of context of what families had were able to provide to families for some financial assistance this current year, just as some additional information for the board. As we know, we had some of those questions when we were adopting these current rates last year for the 24-25 school year. So just an idea of how many families have received scholarships this year, have received some financial assistance, and so on. But yeah, we're recommending no change to the current rates or the discounts for employee or sibling.
Any questions?
Has there been any feedback? I know we raised the cost last year for this school year. Was there any feedback or anyone that had shared like, hey, we chose not to send our kids here. We were unable to send our kids here. I know that there's the scholarships, but those are all based on financial need, right? Okay.
So
have we gotten
feedback that
any?
I had gotten, it's just about the clarity in making sure that people are aware. So there was some feedback like, oh, we didn't know that there was going to be an increase, but we know that all of the information that was shared at enrollment time, all the information that was shared out at the school site. So, there was some feeling at the end, but we will work to 100% make sure that everyone upon enrollment, throughout the springtime are aware of what the rates are and that there's no change.
Okay. But with like new families coming in, did that come
I
up?
don't
Did
have
anybody
that
share any?
information. I would need to check with Stephanie, and then we can get back to you on that. As she oversees registration for preschool families, and so she would have some of that more detailed feedback. If there was any families that felt like, okay, that's too far out of our families, what we can financially commit to, she would know.
Okay.
But we have done as much as we can, as you see through all of the different ways that we're trying to source funds to be able to provide as many options as possible to meet families' needs where they're at. Not everything that we're looking at is necessarily, DES or state grant restricted with those income guidelines, but how can we kind of even breaking some of our scholarship spots into partial so that we can spread and be able to support more families in need in that way. So we're trying to be as creative as possible.
Wonderful. Any other questions? Okay, I'll take a motion.
I'll move to approve.
And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Hearing none, it does pass. Thank you so much, Colleen. And then moving on to approval of open enrollment capacity for the 25-26 school year.
Yes, so this is one of those kind of annual housekeeping items that we bring to the governing board. Typically, we've opened up our online registration or open enrollment for the upcoming school year in January every year, but we were able to do that today in December, so we're definitely moving that timeline up, which is a great thing. And so we needed to bring this to you a month earlier than you typically would see it in December, so that it kind of aligns. Now that we're opened up for online enrollments, registrations for next school year, we need to make sure that we've officially approved that we have open enrollment capacity, because as we know, we have such a large population of out-of-district families that attend in Osborne. So.
And Colleen, could you just walk me through, so enrollment's open now, right now, and so folks can apply. Can you walk me through the kind of what the calendar looks like go forward? When do people notified? Kind of what are those other kind of dates that our folks or families are kind of looking forward to?
Right, so any registrations that are coming in, of course, have to be reviewed and vetted to make sure they're a complete registration before we can accept them. We have to make sure that we have birth certificates, that we have shot records, we have proof of residency, all of those required mandated pieces of a registration packet. So they go into a queue for review, which is supported by our schools front offices. And then those registrations, if they live in their school's attendance zone, then in-district or in-school attendance zones can be accepted as soon as those reviews are happening. Typically, we would say like within a week, those things should be moving through. The week, maybe 2 weeks, business days, not as we're approaching the break. Those things aren't going to be being looked at. But then out-of-district families, this is where then open enrollment policy that's set at the board level, this policy JFB, has to be followed. And so any families that are out-of-district or choosing a program or school of choice, they go through this open enrollment policy where we have a window of time right now where everyone can submit for, hey, we would love to be a part of this special program or this school of choice, or we live out of district. And then once that cutoff happens according to policy, those families, it's usually the beginning of February, we would then take a look and say, okay, based on interest and capacity, do we have more interest than we have capacity for? Which would be a wonderful solution to find, problem to have to find a solution for. And so if there is more interest than capacity, that's where then there's a random selection process based on the policy's preferred enrollment groups. Again, that only applies to out-of-district families or families that are requesting a program or school of choice. In-district families, there's no wait. They're reviewed. If the application is complete, they're accepted.
Got it. And then so the out-of-district families, if you're in district, you're good to go, or just enroll, we gotcha. If you're out of district, get your application in as soon as possible. We want you here in Osborne, and you'll be notified beginning of February. Is there a specific date? Do we know what that date is?
I thought it was February 1 in the policy.
That's the window. And then, of course, we will review interest to capacity and then do our random selection as soon thereafter.
So is it February 1? Or
February 1 is the window they have to submit their interest, submit their registration packet until February 1.
Until February 1, okay.
And then we make that decision. Now, that's not a cutoff. Of course, out-of-district families can continue to register after February. It's just this is our initial kind of holding period to give everyone an equal opportunity to submit their interest as an out-of-district family for Osborne for next school year.
If there were that much interest and we're having to do a lottery, we're doing it right away.
Yeah.
We don't want to delay on this.
If I'm an out-of-district family, I apply tomorrow, when do I find out if I get in to the school?
I would say the first week of February.
First week of February.
I'm not going to commit to February, like February 1. I don't even know if February 1 is a school day. I haven't looked at the calendar. It might be a weekend. But within that very first week of February, we're going to be going through all of those if there is a need for some type of random lottery process, we're going to be going through and then looking at each of those priority groupings and then making those
Okay.
selections.
Okay, that was a big question I got last year from parents from who were out of district who were like, I put my thing in, when am I going to know? And then they start getting nervous and they start looking at other districts and backup districts and whatever. So, as soon as we can, as soon as in February, let them know and just also be really transparent about when that is exactly. If it's February 8th or whatever it is, but as early in February and as transparent as we can be, so those parents know and. Then their anxiety goes down. They wait for us and don't try to look for some other out of district
And then
place.
I would just add that this is for new students, not currently enrolled students. So it's about students that are not current active students in Osborne this school year. It could be a student that had left several years ago or even left earlier in this school year that wants to already let us know that they're planning to come back next year. But this is not the process for our current students to go in and do any kind of selections or modifications for next year. That is a different window that happens later.
Got it. And is that time period for being notified, is that aligned with the preschool notification as well? I know a lot of families have, might have a 3 and 4-year-old and then a 7-year-old, and they're trying to get into Osborne. Is that all aligned, no matter what kind of grade or age the kids are?
That's our goal for this year, yes. In previous years, we've had some different reasons why we were waiting. One, last year we were waiting to make sure that we didn't know if we were going to receive the grants, right? So we were waiting to know, okay, are we going to be awarded? How many slots are we going to be awarded? We were also looking at expanding classrooms, and so anytime we add another classroom, we don't want to commit to families, hey, we have a spot for you until we know that that classroom has passed and is going to pass for licensure, and we can officially open. So this coming year, those things are not slated right now. So we're in a good spot this year. We're kind of continuing with the same classrooms we have. We're not looking at adding a new another preschool classroom that has to wait for families before we can make commitments to them for any of that other process. So yes, the goal this year is that then those dates would align for preschool families as well.
Cool.
That won't always necessarily be the case, because if we do get into, hey, we're thinking about opening another room, oftentimes that licensure has to wait until closer to when school opens if there's facility needs and other things that we're doing first. So,
Got it. Cool. Thank you. Any other questions? I'll take them. Oh,
Not a question, but I was looking at the website for open enrollment where they have the available capacity, and that is listed for 2022-23 school year. So can we have that updated, please? Thank you.
great. Any other questions? If not, I'll take a motion.
A motion to approve.
Second?
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Hearing none, it does pass. Thank you so much, Colleen. Moving on to approval and second reading of ASBA policy revisions.
Second reading, no changes, recommending approval as presented.
Any questions? Do I have a motion?
A motion to approve the policies as read, as listed.
Any second?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Hearing none, it does pass. Moving on, we already did the bond update. Our next item is our board development. We're back to our discussion on strategic planning for school leaders, chapter 4 and 5. They're fairly short chapters, but it's good to get back to it, especially as we move into 2025. It's going to be a big year for strategic planning. Dr. Robert, do you want to, how you feeling over there? Do you want to take us through?
Yeah, I mean, these questions were there from last month. We didn't have a chance to discuss them, but just based on the reading, I think a lot of this has to do with, been working around needs assessment, and you saw from the email that I sent you, we've chosen some dates for meeting with our community in January and February with each school community. Sorry, it's getting rougher as the night goes on.
That's all right.
This is an opportunity, I guess, for you to give some feedback as I'm working with Sarah and Felipe and Abby and Colleen and I are going to be working on these sessions. So as we're starting to think about strategic planning and needs assessment, what are some questions, or I pose the questions there, what are some academic or social emotional outcomes that we want to discuss with parents? So if you could give some questions that would help us in forming the conversation for that evening. And if there's any data that you feel that you would like to see in January or such in terms of getting ready for needs assessment.
Board Member Greenberg, did you?
I mean, I think it would be great to hear from parents what their idea of student achievement looks like. I think as educators and as board members, we have our own ideas of what that looks like. And I think in many ways it probably aligns, but I think for parents to really give that input, and then, you know, what are things that when a student leaves Osborne, what are the goals that they have for their students? What do they want to see from their students? What kind of skills do they want their students to have once they leave Osborne? I think that would be good to get a pulse check on that.
Yeah, I think part of how I was thinking about framing that is creating like that portrait of a graduate type of idea.
That'd be great.
Do we have, I really appreciate the question, especially the second one about what reporting does the governing board need from the district to help? I mean, things that come to my mind are, it'd be just really good to have the data for our community, kind of historic data about enrollment, you know, different academic measures that we have and keep historically, you know, over time. I think about it, you know, to me, attendance is really important as well. But also, and I have no idea if we have this information, but data on what the kids do after they leave Osborne. You know, I have no idea. I kind of assume we don't have the data, but maybe
Matriculation, like where they go to school?
Yeah, where they go to school, how many went on to college, how many, just any sort of information about what the kids went on to do afterwards, I think would be interesting.
So definitely can get you the high school side of it.
Graduation
and that's one of
rates.
the cool pieces,
Yeah.
that data sharing agreement that you did in the fall with with ASU and Helios with the, what do they call it?
The decision-making.
That's it,
theater,
the
yeah.
decision theater.
Yeah.
Looking at it, it will be tracking that Osborne piece even beyond.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I think that's awesome data to have, to be able to just to
Definitely
know.
get the high school
Yeah.
side of things.
Just to know, you know, 99% of, I don't know what it is, but 98% of Osborne, you know, if you come through Osborne schools, you know, 99% of the kids graduate high school, or I don't know, you know, it's any sort of, and a view into that future, or I guess into the past from our past learners. So I've heard all anecdotal things about how wonderful the kids do in high school and things like that, especially from teachers in Phoenix Union. I hear that all the time, but to put some data behind that would be really powerful. Other thoughts, questions? Go ahead.
I know to that point, in high school and for our students that have IEPs, we're required to do what they call post-school outcomes. So our job developers in Phoenix Union will call the families or the student. We get the contact information and we, you know, determine based on that conversation, are they working? Are they in post-secondary school? Are they in? So I know that there's a process for kids with IEPs. There has been some discussion about what does that look like for the broader population, because that's such a, you know, it's a big population, but, you know, a small population in the grand scheme of things. So I know that there's not that data fully right now, but there's, you know, I think that there's some movement towards that, and maybe that's something we want to partner with Phoenix Union or like our neighboring high school districts on, because I think that would be great data to have.
Absolutely. Anybody else want to chime in?
I would love for us to definitely get our like proficiency rates, like the academic stuff, to our families, show it to them, to get some buy-in on how we can, as a community, parents, teachers, board members, everyone, we can work towards, you know, bringing those numbers up. Maybe making even a goal of like, by such year, we want to be up 5% or whatever it might be.
I think it's great.
I just took some notes. As far as reporting, I benchmark data year after year, and trends that we see. the other thing I wrote down was A through F data from the state. I know that your your label, your grade from the state. As a parent, I know that there's a lot more, and because I'm a teacher, there's a lot more that goes into that data than just test scores, and into what makes a good school a good school. But those labels are very important to parents, and so the data. I would love to see data of how we are moving our B schools to A schools and our C school to a B school. That targeted what we are doing specifically to move those benchmarks. As far as academic and social emotional outcomes to discuss with parents, school safety is a huge priority. If we don't have school safety, we don't have anything. And so seeing what parents need from us, I've talked about it with my fellow board members who work in schools, and as teachers, we can be desensitized to school safety because we live it every day. And so I would love to hear feedback from parents about what they need from us as a district to reassure them that their students are safe on our campuses. I think we need to take a deep dive again into our suspension data. I also would love to see success in Spanish language programs, because we have really robust dual language programs. I know that board member Ramos has talked about the success that she saw from Osborne students in her Spanish classes over at Metro Tech, but that data, like how successful are our students in their Spanish courses once they hit high school? Are we seeing kids take AP Spanish? What are we seeing in that data there? And then always want to know why students leave Osborne. We have families who choose to leave our district, and so I would love to see exit surveys from families on why they are leaving, so we can make strategic plans to keep families here.
Those are great thoughts, and kind of leads me back into the reading. So much of the reading was about making sure that not only our goals and strategic goals, but also our strategies are measurable. And that's kind of one of the things I highlighted was the definition of strategies being deliberate and intentional, measurable actions chosen to achieve objectives. And so my hope as we are going through this process in 2025 is to really make sure we do everything we can to have not only our goals be measurable, but also our strategies be measurable actions that we can look back at it. And I think in reading the current strategic plan, I think there's some work to do in those areas. Board Member Greenberg, sorry, go ahead.
No. Dr. Robert, as we're going through this, I know you had talked about having some sessions in the works. I know that oftentimes when we have, and I would like to have these sessions, but oftentimes we have like the same group of parents that come and we're hearing like the same voices, and we're often missing very important. All of our kids are important, but we're missing key groups of families, whether that's like it being accessible, not feeling like they're welcomed, whatever that reason is. What is our plan? And maybe that's a further discussion we need to have as a board too, to ensure that we are getting a wide range of voices.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily have a direct answer, full answer to that, but I do think that what we can learn from those sessions, part of it is who's able to come comes, and you want to value the people that were able to be there and get all of their voices heard. But part of some of the things that we learn from them, we can then use for creating surveys. Those parents may say, yeah, we want to know more about this. And then we can create surveys from parents from, let's say, one school. Longview school parents show up and 30 parents show up, on that evening. And we hear lots of things from them that we could then turn into surveys, and maybe we get that return from 200 of the parents. But it came from the first set of parents, and then you look to broaden it. So I think that the first thing is cast that net and see the fish that you can catch from that first cast and then use the gain for seeing how much broader you can go. That's my, I'm sure with a little bit more time to reflect and, my colleagues, I can come up with a much better answer, but that's my first thought.
I kind of wonder too of having either trust like staff members that families know personally, like doing like phone calls or things like that. Like that might be a heavy ask for staff to do that, but maybe that would be a way to get a hold of parents that are not showing up and ignore the surveys that come in their inbox or those kinds of things. I don't know if that would.
Yep. It's a good thought, and put some more thought into that. How do we reach those families? Absolutely. Any other thoughts, reflections? Okay, moving on. Speaking of reflections, let's move on to reflections and feedback on the meeting. I'll start with Board Member Ford.
Thank you. I loved our Osborne Middle School presentation this evening. Thank you so much to the leadership team, Ms. Hayes and Ms. Algomez. Thank you for your consistent leadership over at Osborne Middle School. I think Osborne Middle School is the place to be. When I think of Osborne Middle School, I think of the 21st century programs that you've implemented over these last year and this year since I've been on the board. I think that we just offer such a diverse group of programs to our students, and the students really are enmeshed in the community that is OMS, and we saw that today with the United Sound program, which was so cool. Similarly to Solano last month, where we see those helpers, those students who are helping other students, that just builds so much community, that builds perspective, it builds leadership, and to have self-contained students participate so openly just is that equity piece. This world is not a self-contained world. And so what a cool program. Thank you for doing that. I wanted to also give a shout out to our COO, Colleen Toscano. I don't think I've ever shouted you out before. Whenever you present, I'm just always floored. You're so knowledgeable and smart, and you answer these really hard-hitting questions we have about the budget. I could never do a budget. I can't do my own budget, let alone school budget. So thank you for all you do. You carefully present the budget to us. You make sure that our district is fiscally responsible, and that is important. As a community member, as a taxpayer, I want to make sure that the dollars that I pay are being spent wisely, and we do that. And thank you for the transparency. Our board packet is so transparent. It's much more transparent than a lot of other school districts. And I think that's so important. So thank you for all you do. You're such an important piece of this Osborne community, and we're just really happy that you're here supporting our community and our students. This district wouldn't run without you. So thank you for all you do. And then I wanted to say for open enrollment, if you're thinking about sending your student here, for those out in the audience, maybe on YouTube right now, do it. Do it. Sign your kid up to come to this district.
That's right.
I love the school my son goes to. I love this district. I love this community. One of the best decisions I've ever made was sending my son here. So if you're thinking about it, do it. Open enrollment is open. And this is a very long week for teachers and staff. So I just wanted to say thank you to our staff here at Osborne for all they do for our students. Like the most magical week. Yesterday as a parent, I'm like trying to find a Santa hat, which everywhere is sold out of. But my kid had such a great day today wearing a Santa hat to school. And those are really like the memories our students make, or these really cool fun moments that they have on our campuses where they spend so much time. And I just wanted to say thank you to all of our families who choose Osborne. Thank you. Happy holidays, everybody.
All right. So ditto on the OMS presentation. It's always so great to see the students come up here and show us and talk to us about what they do and why they love being a member of our schools. It just shows how well spoken they were too. Like I'm so excited for what their future brings for them. And they're getting all that training here. So thank you to all of our teachers and to OMS for that presentation. Also seeing that bus, the electric bus at the parade was just so amazing. The parade is almost like a family tradition for me. My mom used to take us when we were little. I remember being all bundled up. Not so much anymore because it's not that cold anymore, but having the opportunity to take my mom now. And so for me to say, hey, mom, you're going to the parade with us. And then for me to show her like, hey, I'm on the school board for this amazing school district, and for her to see just the wonderful things we're doing. So really thank you for that collaborative project. It was so amazing. It was beautiful. I got messages from friends saying like, hey, I saw the Osborne bus. And truly the different conferences that we get to go to, and we network with other board members around the county, the state, the country. They don't have the support that we have here to electrify our bus fleet, right? So just showing how much we care for our community and the clean air. And I hear the frustrations from other board members at other school districts who would love for the other board members to agree with them. And here, I mean, I guess I can only speak for myself, but I've sensed my other colleagues also agree with the fact that we want to continue doing what we can to help our environment, and we're just setting the standard for our students to hopefully grow up and want to do those same things. So I guess it's our last meeting of the year, right? So for board member or Clerk Greenberg and myself, it's our second year. So thank you everybody for making our life or our job here so easy. It really is not difficult. I hear the struggles other board members go through, and we definitely don't go through that. Thankfully, we all get along. And, we're able to have these tough conversations where we don't agree, but we walk out still saying happy holidays and, truly wishing each other the best. The bond projects, so excited for those. I love seeing just how much we're going to be improving, and my hope is that we can get through them as quickly as possible so that way we can go for another bond and keep improving our school district. And then the last thing I want to say is that I know it feels like we're about to enter some really tough times, right? And we have been going through them as well as things have happened with other leaders in the community who try to bully school districts rather than help them. I won't go into details about it, but I do want to say that even though times have been tough and times will continue to be tough, I know that as your school board members here, we're going to be standing strong to defend our communities. And I know for sure Prop 314 was something that people were really scared of, right? And so I just want to assure our community that we will continue to make sure our schools are a safe haven for all of our students, all of our families, because it's very important. It's very important to make sure that we're keeping everyone safe and that school is a place of learning and not a place of fear. So thank you all.
Board Member Greenberg.
I'd like to second all of that. I was especially excited as a special educator about United Sound, and it was very timely because I had a conversation with our special ed director in Phoenix Union about United Sound and how awesome that would be to bring to our district. We just started Unified Sports this year, and it's going really great, and I'd love to see that expand to different areas. And so that was really, really exciting, and I'd love to come out and see them in action. So I might might ask Carol. I'm really excited to see what comes out of the kickoff meeting in January, so that we can get that construction going and spend those bond dollars. I'm really excited about the projects, as I know you all are too. And I really, appreciate the conversation about the calendars. I think sometimes it's like calendars, what a mundane topic, but it really, it's something that has an impact on everybody in our school community. And there's not necessarily a right answer. We might, when we bring this back, we might vote on something and, the calendar will be what it is. And we might get feedback that was amazing, or that was, hey, let's not do that again in the future. And that's okay. Like, that's what we do as educators. We monitor and adjust. And, it can be scary to try new things, and sometimes it's also okay to do things as you've been doing them because it works. And so, I look forward to that future discussion. I also wanted to second Board Member Ramos's comments. I know that we have been in a time of uncertainty, and we are definitely moving forward into even more uncertainty. There's been a lot of, I guess, promises made with our incoming administration. But to our families, our educators, to anyone who, is in fear, our schools are a safe place. We do not welcome ICE in our schools. Our students and our families need to know that, we want you to continue to send your kids to our schools. We want, we need to have that open line of communication with information. I know that can feel scary to share that, but we need to know that. We need to have, contact information, any of that. And so please know that is safe. We are here to keep you as a family and your kids safe when they are with us on our campuses. And I know we haven't gotten to the board agenda, but I think it would be pertinent for us as a board to review policy that we have to ensure that whatever we can do, we are keeping to that promise. Because I don't want anybody to walk into our school doors or any of our campus facilities and have fear that something is going to happen to them while they are with us. And so I think that would be something we need to look into.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to start my reflection on that and then kind of maybe back up a little bit. But I absolutely agree. And I know this board in the past, I know it's been a number of years, but has passed resolutions and which you could say don't do anything, but a lot of times they do a lot and to show what our values are as a board, and that we are a place that are welcoming for everyone, and we protect especially our most vulnerable people, and we stand up for and we protect our immigrant families, and we'll continue to do that, and we will not be a tool for whomever is looking to come after our immigrant families or do something with Prop 314. We don't do that. That's not who we are as Osborne. We are a welcoming place, and we are a place that keeps your kids and your families safe, and we'll stand up for that every time. And it's something that I would love to see this board do, is pass a resolution to that effect that we can work on. Kind of bigger, broader reflections. This is my last meeting of my first term, so last of 4 years, and kind of had a flash of it real quick when Dr. Robert was like, we remember we had trimester. I was like, yeah. And I'm looking around, I'm like, I guess I'm the only one remembers that anymore. And the folks who I came in with, aren't on this board anymore. And, so I'm like, I guess I'm the last one there who got, elected back in 2020. And so it's an honor to have served a term for the community to just have that opportunity to do it. And it's been you look back on it, a lot has happened in the last 4 years. I came onto this board. We were meeting on Zoom. We were in masks. We were on Zoom. School wasn't we did not have in-person school when I started on this board. It was a scary time. It was a nerve-wracking time. And I was trying to find my place and what can I be as a board member. I came in with big dreams and ambitions for this district, and thought maybe there was a button or a lever somewhere I could pull that said more money for teachers and more money for staff, and quickly realized that so much of that almost all of that is governed by the legislature. But there's still a lot that we can do as a board, and a big piece of that is having the back of our teachers and our staff and being somewhere that says, look, you know, there's going to be forces out there from the state or whomever that are not supportive and sometimes downright attacking. And we're going to have your back and we're going to protect that. I mean, within my first year on the board, we got sued by some politicians down at the state because they didn't like the way we reopened and put in some procedures that made it safe for our kids that our parents really, really liked and wanted. Because as a parent, we were all really nervous and we were all really scared. Our parents really liked it. We won that lawsuit. That was the first time that we got sued. More recently, you know, with dual language, again, we had politicians saying, we don't like the way you're doing things. We think you should separate your kids and ostracize kids with related to how we do our dual language program. We don't think that kids like mine, maybe, who speak Spanish at home should be with the kids who don't speak Spanish at home. Our families, our parents said, no, we like the way Osborne does it. We're not going to change. We get sued. We stand up for those families for the way we do it at Osborne. Again, we win. We win that lawsuit. That's all I'll comment. It's now on appeal. I'm sure we're going to win that as well. But it's been a lot in 4 years. We opened up Montecito in my first term extremely successfully to the work of Dr. Robert and a lot of people in this room. We've had a lot of successes. We've grown enrollment this year. We've made a lot of strides, and I'm just really happy that I get to do another term of this and get to serve with everybody here on this board. Really excited that Eric's going to be joining us in January as well. And just really appreciative of all the teachers and staff who make this district what it is. Dr. Robert.
All right. For starters, Carol and Allison, it's so obvious, not only as you're presenting tonight, but whenever you're on campus, if you're there when just a couple members are there or the entire staff's there, OMS staff, like OMS has just a feel to it that's just an amazing culture. And you could see it tonight, you know, with the interactions that the staff had with one another, you know, cheering one another, but also through the words that you were reading, just how people feel about one another on that campus. It's evident when you hear it, but it's evident just being on the campus. Great programs, great innovation, mentioning the 21st century programs and lots of things that are happening. It's just such an amazing place to be, and it was really exciting to see this work. So cool that, you know, the work that Sam had done from years back when he was over at Clarendon and working with Julia there, that he's continuing that work, you know, and integrating students, his students as much as possible on your campus. So love the partnership and all of that work. I'm not going to repeat the amazingly eloquent things that you have all said, but I think it kind of boils down to one big idea. You know, elections just happened last month. Some people are really worried as a result of the election, but there are also some people that are quite satisfied with the election, right? We serve you all. We serve all those families, all of those parents, all of those students. We always have, and that's what our core values are about. We will protect the rights of any family, of any kid that is here. The one thing on election night, when you look at your ballot, when you live within the Osborne School District that you don't have to worry about is down ballot. That's where the things that you're deciding about what happened here within Osborne School District, our community supports us fully. Our community votes amazing people in to be on the governing board here. I've been here for 18 years, and, you know, over a 32-year career prior to Osborne, I moved around a lot. I worked in like 7 or 8 different places before being here. And it's been a while since I, you know, moved anywhere else. This is a really special place. It really is. It's an amazing environment to work in. Sometimes, you know, like things, I don't know, end of year just always like brings about this type of reflection and thinking about where I am and you know, the fact that I guess I just feel very fortunate to be able to sit in this seat with a board, and with Eric joining, feeling just as comfortable. I've always had a board that has taken care of kids. And as long as I'm doing things that are taking care of kids too, you guys have had my back on that, and also pushed me in ways to continue doing things, difficult things, having that integrity and having our core values, that we're not going to bend about. So elections, there are lots of things that you vote on, but I always feel good about the Osborne things that we get to vote on. And at the end of every election, I get to smile. So this is a wonderful district to work in. Amazing people that sit up here, but you guys approve, our personnel reports. And there are amazing people that are sitting out there that you have said yes to. And I hope that, we continue supporting one another in this work that we do. We don't do this work alone on our end, nor you on your end. It's a very collective effort. And feeling that support is something that we've felt, that I look forward to having that coming into the new year. And, we'll have a reorganization meeting in January. Ed, it's been fantastic having your leadership over the next 2 years, and we'll see where we are in terms of, when we get back in January. Leanne, you're in a new position. It's been wonderful having you as a clerk, and stepping into a new role. Eric, we're really looking forward to having you joining us here. If not for any other reason, then we're going to have a calendar once we have 5 people up here on. But thank you for another good year.
Thank you. Okay, future agenda items. Board Member Ford.
No future agenda items for me, but if any other board members are interested in writing a resolution on how we're going to keep our families safe, I will absolutely am willing to be a part of that. So just let me know.
Great. Board Member Ramos.
Yeah, no future agendas. I was just going to elevate that to a policy, actually. And so I do have some language from a school board in Colorado that has a safe haven policy that we can start looking into to see if it fits for our school district.
Great. Board Member Greenberg.
I would second that. I think we need that in policy. I think resolutions are not to criticize at all. Board member Ford, if we wanted to do a resolution as well, but I just think we need something to really stand on, and it gives our staff members that too. Obviously, that we have constraints within state law and possibly federal law, so we can look at what that looks like. I know that we've also talked about cell phones, so I don't know, Dr. Robert, if you've gotten any feedback from administrators on their thoughts on where we should go with cell phones, whether that needs to be something in policy or a procedure. I think particularly for our campuses with older students, and I say older, thinking of the 2nd and 3rd graders that had smartphones. But I know that that's more of an issue, particularly with our older students, and I think we need to do something to address that, and we need to have a in-depth conversation about what that is, and maybe that would be a good work study session so that we can have conversations with admin and maybe parents, and that maybe that's part of our strategic planning conversations, because it's a huge issue.
Yep. I don't have anything to add, just other than I like both of those I thoughts about new policies on both fronts. So that's it. Everybody have a wonderful night and a happy holidays. We will see you in January. Stay warm out there. We're adjourned.